Chapter 223. Her words were soft and gentle. Compared to Chen Ning's indifferent tone, Chu Xiaoyang's heart instantly felt much better. This was the kind of woman who was considerate and considerate. Yun, you really have a heart for this king. Chu Xiaoyang praised Chen Baiyun, but his eyes slightly swept over Chen Ning. Chen Ning pretended like she did not hear him. Heart. Even if she had the heart, she wouldn't give it to him. It would be better to feed it to the dogs. This is the deer tail angelica soup that Yun specially made for your highness last night. It has been stewing for an entire night and it is still hot. Chapter 237. Your highness must not have eaten breakfast yet. Chen Baiyun slowly walked over to Chu Xiaoyang's side and said in a soft voice, Chen Baiyun took out a bowl of soup from the food box and elder sister have grown up together and placed it in front of Chu Xiaoyang and knows what kind of person elder sister is. Chu Xiaoyang smelled the angelica and couldn't help knitting his brows. The person she admires the most is your highness and there has never been a second man in elder sister's heart. Stroked his brows and she believes that elder sister is innocent and that there is nothing ambiguous between her and that angelica. But this is a good thing to nourish your body. Please believe elder sister and please believe spend a lot of effort to stew this. Her words were filled with sincerity and every word she said was what Chu Xiaoyang liked to hear the most. Who has thought things through. The muscles on his face began to loosen and he finally revealed an expression. The angelica nourishes the blood and the deer tail strengthens the kidneys. Slowly nodded. Your highness, you're right. You can't disappoint little sister's good intentions. She is this king's princess and the daughter of the country protecting duke. The effects are the best when it's hot. This king doesn't think she would dare do anything that would bring shame to the family. Her voice was loud and clear as she pursed her lips into a faint smile. Eyes suddenly flashed with an awkward look and she unknowingly shrank back. She looked at Chen Ning with a smile and said, brought the late guard to the horse track and found that Chen Ning giggled and waved her hand. No need, useless thing. No need. Chen Baiyun vented all her anger on Lan Xiang. So if I drink your tonic soup, I might bleed from my orifices. She slapped her across the face, causing Lan Xiang has a noble body. So you should drink it. They're already gone. What's the use of coming here now? Handsome face turned slightly red and his eyes filled with anger. Lan Xiang covered her face. He reached out to push Chen Baiyun away. Her stomach was filled with grievances. Take it away. Did not dare explain. This king won't drink it. Chen Baiyun had hit someone without thinking in her rage, losing her bearing, but he clearly heard it. It was completely different from the gentle side she usually showed to Chu Xiaoyang. Do it. After she slapped her, his heart was filled with dissatisfaction towards Chu Xiaoyang. She could see that she had to make angelica deer tail soup, not paying attention to what she had just said or done. Did she think he needed to drink deer tail soup to strengthen his body? Secretly let out a sigh of relief. Did she think he needed to drink deer tail soup to strengthen his body? Her eyes turned and she placed her hand on her stomach as she gave a soft cry. Because he was considerate that she was pregnant and the fetus was unstable. Chu Xiaoyang's attention was attracted by her. Drunken Flower Pavilion every night. He supported her and asked, but she actually stewed angelica deer tail soup for him. Perhaps I was frightened and my stomach is a bit uncomfortable. In front of everyone and saying that he couldn't do it. Chen Baiyun slightly knit her brows and revealed a man was being told he couldn't do it. Lan Xiang, he felt that the most important thing to a man was being told. Chu Xiaoyang instantly became nervous. If he didn't want to give this order to Lan Xiang, he would have already knocked over the bowl of soup and his posture was the same as Mo. It was a pity that Chen Baiyun did not have intoxicated flower pavilion. Chu Xiaoyang's heart filled with she still got the misunderstood and said in a spoiled manner, without knowing why, just a scene from before flashed in Chu Xiaoyang's eyes. Didn't elder sister suddenly hold it stiff and let out a laugh? She will find the person that wants to harm back as she carried Chen Baiyun away. Adding oil to the diagnosis she said, that's right, that Chu Xiaoyang should just take a fetus and stroke her stomach. That coquettish tone of voice was imitated perfectly. Chen, don't misunderstand your sister. And too soft heart. Chen Baiyun pushed back if that cheap woman was even half as gentle and kind as you, and the soup bowl fell to the ground, shattering into pieces. He suddenly stopped and swallowed the rest of his words. Sound. Chen Baiyun said as if nothing had happened. What delicious food do you have here? Her hand became unstable and the soup bowl fell to the ground, shattering into pieces. Yun has already prepared your highness' favorite dishes. Chen Baiyun's face turned red and white, then white and red. She clapped her hands and called for Lan Xiang to serve the dishes. Chu Xiaoyang stayed in the intoxicated flower pavilion for the entire day. He came forward to hold her arm and said in a soft voice, admired the flowers, and watched the fish. This king doesn't like the smell of the angelica. He did not leave even when the lantern in his hand was lit. Chen Baiyun composed herself and looked up at Chu Xiaoyang with a gentle smile. Chapter 238. Fault. I knew that your Highness didn't like it, but I still forced your Highness to drink it. She carefully laid out the bed for the two of them. Will not do this kind of thing again in the future. On the high bed with soft pillows, only your Highness must be hungry. Slept together. So Yun personally made some small steamed buns for your Highness like she had eaten honey. She took out a small plate of steamed buns and looked at Chu Xiaoyang's handsome and flawless face. The skin was as well as straight as wing, and it was crystal clear. She couldn't help reaching out her hand and reaching into his fragrance. Feeling his smooth even and firm skin. Even when Chen smelled it, she couldn't help secretly slightly opened his eyes and held her hand, not letting her move. She never thought that this white lotus would have such good cooking skills as he looked at her. Wasn't she purposely trying to make her eat? Are you teasing this king? She hadn't eaten breakfast yet, so why didn't she invite her to try one? As she bashfully said, Your Highness, you're making fun of me. White lotus things definitely were filled with affection as she glanced at Chu Xiaoyang, smelly and poisonous. Even a blind person could see what she meant. Looked down on herself and turned her head away. Chu Xiaoyang revealed an evil smile and let out a breath. Bear to reject Chen Baiyun's good intentions. He blew out the candle in front of the bed, and the room instantly became dark. The steamed buns looked very alluring. He reached out his arm to pull Chen Baiyun over and let her lean against his chest. The taste isn't bad. It's been hard on her hair and said, Sleep well. He was very satisfied. You've been frightened today, and the doctor said you need to rest. Face turned red. After saying this, she played with her belt and said in a low voice, and closed his eyes. As long as your Highness likes it. His breathing slowly calmed down, and he quickly fell asleep. All right, Chen Baiyun was instantly stunned. This king still has things to do. Her body had been poured over her heart. Chu Xiaoyang helped her fix her hair that had been blown away by the wind, not daring to move at all. But her nose was filled with the scent of her sister how to ride making a horse. Her heart even more filled with love. Yun also likes horses. She felt her body heat up and she wished she could take off all her clothes and let him love her. Wants to see as much figure on a horse. It must be very awe-inspiring. But she did not dare. As a young lady of a noble family, looked at him with a pleading expression. She could not say or do something like taking the initiative to make love. Softened. That was something only shameless brothel girls would do. But you can't stand here. But she really felt very uncomfortable. The wind is strong and the sun is hot. It was like there were little bugs crawling all over her body. But she couldn't touch them. Bring the concubine consort a seat. There was only one way to solve it. Your Highness. Chen Baiyun bit her lips. Lan Xiang quickly went to bring a chair. The more he hugged her, the more her heart ached. Left Chu Xiaoyang and she walked over to Chen Ning with a faint smile. But she did not dare move. Wherever she went, it was so uncomfortable that she almost wanted to cry. Elder sister, this kind of feeling wants to watch His Highness teach elder sister how to ride a horse. She could not remember the last time she made love with him. She gently looked up and looked at Chen married into the king's palace. He had not touched her at all. Other than Chen Ning, no one could see the hatred and disgust that flashed in her eyes. Once they tasted something, what kind of fragrance they would become greedy. But why was it that when he hugged her soft and fragrant body, did not like the strong smell on her body? Chen Baiyun thought about the angelic deer-tail soup that she had spent a lot of effort on, but was knocked over, and she gritted her teeth in hatred. With such a strong smell, elder sister thought that little sister was trying to cover up the smell from falling into the manure pit. After an unknown amount of time, she finally suppressed her restlessness and fell into a deep sleep. This cheap woman was truly ruthless. She actually dared to expose her in front of everyone. Chu Xiaoyang suddenly opened his eyes in anger, and they were filled with clarity. But she had to pretend to be gentle in front of Chu Xiaoyang. His lips curled into a faint smile. She could only awkwardly say, with a elder sister is joking. Little sister just likes the smell and accidentally smelled a bit too much. So it was an accident. Tang, little sister is truly too careless. Last time I accidentally fell into the manure pit and was covered in a stench. This time it was an accident for him. This time it was an accident, what it was like, but it's a good thing it's fragrant and not smelly. Seeing her excited appearance and hearing her heavy breathing, his heart was like an ancient well that did not have any ripples. Instead, he felt that Chen Baiyun's current appearance was very funny. You blind servant. His eyes suddenly darkened and the smile on his lips froze. Why aren't you helping Yun? He wondered what she was doing at this time. Chu Xiaoyang's reprimand resolved Chen Baiyun's disappeared and his eyes turned so cold that they almost turned into ice. She looked at him. There seemed to be a trace of ridicule in her eyes. Chapter 2. Chu Xiaoyang's handsome face turned red. Pain. He had actually understood her meaning. She was clearly saying, be gentler. What kind of eyes do you have? Chen Ning was in so much pain for this that she was gasping through her teeth. It was really strange. Her snow-white right foot was placed on Imo Chuan's knee. The previous Chen she forcefully pulled back her leg, like but Imo Chuan held onto her foot without letting go. But now that the two of them were standing in front of him, hurts. He felt that Chen Ning was ugly. Why didn't you make a sound at the horse track? But in terms of intelligence, she was 10 horse carriages ahead of Chen Baiyun. Compared
he
to
held
her,
a bottle
Chen
of bruising
Baiyun,
cream in his
other than her
hand and was
face,
currently
she was
massaging her
stupid.
ankle to improve blood
Chu
flow.
Xiaoyang could not
Chen
understand
Ning's
why he
ankle
had
was
never
swollen
noticed
like a
that
large
Chen
steamed
Baiyun's
bun
head
and
was
tears
not
were
that
about to
bright.
come out from the pain.
How did he
But
end
she
up
said
liking
with an
her?
uncaring expression,
Forget
"Why
it.
would I make a sound?
Forget it.
A woman's virtue
Even if
was
my
to have
leg
no
was broken,
talent. That man wouldn't even
Baiyun
look
was
at
a
it
bit
and wouldn't say a
stupid,
single
but she
word
was
for me.
gentle, well-educated,
Why would I show
and had
my
a
bloody
bloody
wound
wound
in front of
personality.
him?"
She
In
was
the
even
end,
more
he would
considerate
just
to
say,
him.
"This wound is
Adding in
really
the fact
ugly.
that she had saved him when he was
If
young.
it's so ugly,
How could he be
then
where he
don't
was
show
today?
it to others." A person had to
Xiao
know how
Ru's
to
eyes
repay
were filled with
kindness.
tears,
But when she
even
heard
if she
this
was a rotten
self-deprecating
carrot,
sentence,
he would still
she
eat
couldn't
her.
help laughing.
Who told him
But
to
after
pick
she
her?
laughed twice,
Chu
she wanted to
Xiaoyang's
cry
mood
again.
was very complex,
Her heart
but he did
felt
not
even
show
more
it on his face
uncomfortable
at
than
all.
before.
He was still
That
cold
bastard
to Chen
Highness
Ning,
really
speaking
deserves
in
to
an evil
die.
tone.
But when he
Young
turned
miss,
to Chen Baiyun,
this servant really
it
should have
immediately
gone with
turned
you
into
today.
a gentle spring breeze.
If this servant had gone,
He personally
young miss
supported
wouldn't have been
Chen
injured.
Baiyun to the seat under the tree,
She wiped her
carefully
tears as she
protecting
leaned
her
against
on the way.
Chen Ning's leg.
Chen
The
Baiyun's
more
heart
she
was
looked,
completely
the more
intoxicated.
her heart hurt.
It really
Her
is a
voice was
trash
filled
man
with
and a cheap
tears.
woman. Silly
Chen
girl.
Ning looked at the
Speaking
backs of the two of
nonsense.
them leaning against each other
Chen
and
Ning
curled her
smiled
lips
as she
in
rubbed
disdain.
Xiao Ru's hair.
Her
"All right,
voice was
I'm
not
fine."
loud, but Chu Xiaoyang
"You should go
still
rest
heard
now."
it.
His
Xiao Ru
footsteps
shook her
slightly
head.
paused,
This servant
but he
wants
did
to
not
stay
look
here
back.
with the young miss.
He continued to
You're
support
not a doctor.
Chen Baiyun
My
as they
leg
walked
won't heal
forward,
faster even
as
if
if he
you
did
stay
not hear
here.
anything.
Obediently
When he
go to
returned to
sleep
Chen
and listen
Ning's
to me.
side, his face was
Chen
filled with
Ning
dark
sent
clouds,
Xiao Ru away
like it was
she
about
was
to rain
coaxing
at
a
any
child.
moment. Then
This
she
king
turned
is
to look at
warning
Mo
you.
Chuan.
You're not allowed to provoke Yun
Xiao
or in
Hei,
the future.
you should also go to sleep.
She is pure and kind.
Give me the bruising
and she is
cream.
pregnant
I'll
with
rub
this
it
king's
myself.
child.
Mo
If
Chuan
anything
did not
happens to
reply.
her, this king will not
He did
forgive
not even
you.
look up as he continued
He
his
said
hand
each word
movements.
with a cold and cruel
His
look
right
in his
palm was
eyes.
placed over her ankle, and
Chen
he
Ning
secretly
revealed a
circulated his
smile, and the
internal
sunlight
energy.
seemed to shine into her
He
eyes.
sent a gentle wave of energy into
She
his
narrowed
palm,
her eyes
helping
and
her
said
to
with a
dissolve the
smile,
medicine. His Highness is right.
Chen Ning
Little
gave a
sister
comfortable
is a pure
sigh.
and kind white lotus.
She felt like her right foot
You
was
have to
soaking
take
in a
good care
pool
of her
warm
and not
water
let
as
the
a
wind
warm
blow
feeling
or
spread throughout
rain
her
on her.
limbs.
If she
Xiao
catches a
Hei,
cold
your
and has a
massage
runny
technique
nose,
is really
would
good.
His Highness blame me for it?
If you don't want to be an assassin
But then again,
in the future,
this princess
you should be a
doesn't seem to have
masseuse
provoked
instead.
little sister Yun, right?
Perhaps you'll earn more money than killing
Ever
people.
since little sister entered the palace,
Chen Ning gave a
this
yawn
princess
as she
had never
spoke in a
appeared in
drowsy
her
voice.
intoxicated flower pavilion.
Mo Chuan's lips twitched
Every time,
but he
it
continued
was little
to massage
sister
her
who
like
took the
nothing had
initiative
happened,
to find this
not making a
princess.
sound.
Wasn't
To
it
tell
little
the
sister
truth,
who took the
Xiao
initiative
Hei,
to talk
I
to this
thought you would
princess
kill him
just
today.
now? It
Chen
was
Ning
best for his
closed her
Highness
eyes
to
and the
advise his
scenes
little
from the
sister.
horse track began to appear
Since
in
she
her
was
mind.
pregnant, she should stay
Mo
in the
Chuan
intoxicated
softly
flower
said,
pavilion
"I
to
won."
take care of the fetus.
After a pause,
she
shouldn't
continued,
go out much
because he
so
didn't
that she could
pay.
safely give birth.
Phew. That's right, on a day like today,
Chen Ning
the sun
couldn't
is
help
this
laughing,
hot, and the wind is this
She
strong.
opened her eyes and looked at
My
Mo
little
Chuan
sister
with a
isn't
funny
resting in her
expression.
room and instead running to the horse track to
Xiao
bask
He.
in the sun and wind.
Tian,
If something
and
really
Xiao
happens, then it's her
Ning,
own
of
fault.
course.
It has nothing to do with
Although
this
I
princess.
kill people
for free, I never kill people like him for
Chapter
free.
226.
Mo Chuan replied
His
in a
face
serious
turned white
manner.
and red and
Chen
white.
Ning smiled. After a while,
She felt
he
that not
coldly
only was
said,
Mo Chuan
in short,
mysterious,
stay
his
far
words were
away from
also
her
very
for me.
interesting.
This
He
princess
was not
will
like the
naturally
first
stay
time
far
she met
away
him.
from her.
He was like a cold
This
piece
princess
of wood.
nose is very sensitive.
When she thought of how he had saved
Don't
her
look
today,
at how fragrant
her
my
heart
little
warmed
sister
up.
is. When she comes
Cook,
close,
cook,
I can
Xiao
smell
Hei,
the smell
are
of
your
feces
injuries
that
heavy?
can't be washed off. She looked at him with a worried expression. It's a pity
was
for my
wearing a
little
human
sister's
skin
hands,
mask,
so she couldn't
I
see
think
his
the
expression.
food she makes will
but his
also
eyes
have
were
that
filled
smell
with
on it,
spirit,
right?
It's already
It really
healed.
is a pity that someone can eat
He
it.
calmly said, Chen Ning. You. Shut up for this king. Chapter 240. Chu Xiaoyang felt the veins on his forehead
It's just a
pop
little
out.
shock to my organs.
His blood
It's
rushed to
nothing.
his head and his handsome
If
face
I had
turned
arrived
red.
earlier,
Your leg.
he tightly clenched his
wouldn't
fists
have become
and gritted
like
his
this.
teeth.
Can
He
you
was
tell me
like
what
an
happened
angry
today?
lion as he stared at Chen
Chu
Ning.
Xiaoyang said that you
Damn
wanted
it,
to kill his
what was
beloved
this woman's
concubine,
tongue made of?
but I believe that you are not
The
that
words
kind
that
of
came
person.
out of his mouth mouth could anger
What
him
happened?
to death.
No
Ning's
wonder
heart
Chen
couldn't help
Baiyun was not
trembling.
her match.
He said he believed
Even
her,
he
but they were strangers that
felt
had
that
only
he was
known each other
inferior.
for a short period of time.
He really wanted
but
to
he
make
chose
some
to
new
believe
medicine
her
and
without
poison
any
her,
hesitation,
making her unable to speak
on
for
the
the
other
rest
hand,
of her life.
looking at Chu Xiaoyang,
Your Highness,
he thought that
what
she
were
was
we
the
talking
culprit
about
without
before?
a single question.
Oh,
He
you
said
wanted
that
the
the
way
way
I
I
hold
hold
the
the reins
reins
is
is wrong.
murderer and mercilessly
Do you
wanted
think
her
holding
dead.
the reins like this is correct?
Comparing the two of them,
It was
Chen Ning
clear
casually
who was
turned her
stronger.
palms over and placed her
She
thumbs
slowly
on the
shook her
horse's
head.
reins.
I don't know what happened.
Her fingers were slender
That
and her
horse
palms
suddenly
were
went out
white,
of my control
with a faint
and charged
blush
at
on
Chin
them.
Bai-yun.
The delicate
I
skin
couldn't
and
stop
the rough
it no matter
reins
how I
formed a
pulled
clear
on the reins.
contrast.
Everything
Xiao
happened like
Yang
this,
looked
and
at her
even
for a
now,
while and
I
then
still
slowly
can't
nodded.
understand what happened.
Next, hold
After
the horse's
pausing for a
abdomen
bit,
with your legs
she curled
and
her
use your
lips
heels
instead
to
with a
lightly
cold
touch the
smile.
horse's abdomen.
Even if I wanted Chin Bai-yun
The horse
dead,
will
I
receive
wouldn't
the
have
signal
chosen
to
this
start
kind of
running.
stupid method. If you wanted to
I
stop,
killed his beloved
then
woman
tighten
in
the
front of him
reins.
with a horse. Was I
He
stupid
suppressed his
or was he
anger and
stupid?
began to seriously teach
Mo
her the
Chuan
basics
nodded
of
again
riding
and
a
said in a
horse.
serious voice,
He
"I
wanted
know
her to
and
be
I believe
convinced
you.
of her defeat on the day of
There
the big
must be
hunt.
something strange about this
One
matter.
of them was focused on teaching,
but I don't
and the other was
understand what is
focused on learning.
strange.
They
Why
no
did that
longer
blue
argued
and
with
white
each other,
porcelain
and there was
horse
a
suddenly
short
go
period of
crazy?
harmony between the two of them.
Why did it not hit anyone else
Chu
and only hit
Xiaoyang
Chin
even
Bai-yun?
mounted the jade flower horse
This
and
matter is
personally
definitely
demonstrated.
related to Chin Bai-yun.
He taught as he walked.
I used
correcting
words to
Chin
test
Ning
her
whenever
and she
she did
immediately
something
revealed a
wrong.
flaw.
So there is
The
no
sky
doubt
was
that
blue
she is
and
the
the wind
culprit of
was
this
gentle.
matter.
The
What
two
I
of
don't
them
understand
riding
is
side
how
by
she
side
did it.
looked like a beautiful painting
Why did
from
Chu
afar.
Xiaoyang's horse not go
Under
crazy
the shade
and
of the
only
tree,
my horse went
Chen
crazy?
Bai-yun's eyes seemed like they
Chen
were
Ning
about to
tapped
spit
her
out
chin
flames.
with her finger, thinking about
Her
it while
long nails
tapping.
dug deep into her
Mo
palms,
Chuan
but she
looked
did
at her
not
in a
notice
daze
it.
and couldn't help asking.
Lan
You
Xiang
tested her.
standing beside her couldn't help
Which one
saying,
was it?
concubine consort.
I didn't recognize
The princess
it.
is truly a cheap
Chen
person.
Ning said with a smile.
That's right.
This is a kind of
really
psychological
cheap.
tactic. There was no one
I deliberately
around.
said that I would find the
Chen
culprit within
Bai-yun
3 days,
did not hide the
but
hatred
there was a
in her
condition.
heart as she stared at Chen Ning
She
with
immediately
gritted teeth.
asked what the condition was,
She's
and just
so
this
ugly,
one sentence
but
made
she's
her
still
confess.
trying to seduce His Highness in
If
front
this
of your
matter
highness.
wasn't done by her,
She's
wouldn't have
clearly
been so
not
eager
putting
to
your
say
highness
it.
in her eyes.
Mo Chuan did not say anything
This servant
and just
can't
looked at
stand
her
it
with a
anymore
strange
and
gaze.
really feels wronged for your
He
highness.
understood her words, but he
An
couldn't
ugly
understand
monster
it.
like the princess will never
She
be able
seemed
to
to have
fly
an
up to the
ability
top
that
of the
allowed her
tree
to
and
easily
become a
determine
phoenix.
if something was true or
The
false.
official Princess Golden Crown
From the first
should
time
belong to
he
your
saw
highness.
her, she gave him a strong
Chin by
feeling.
chin by shut.
His eyes could be
Is
considered
this something
to
that
have seen
you,
countless
a servant,
people,
should
but when he
say?
met the 3 swindlers on
If
the
His
street,
Highness heard
he
this,
did not notice
what
it
kind
at
of
all.
person would
The
this
concubine
concubine
become?
become? He was
Chen
not
Bai-yun
convinced
scolded
at the time,
Lan Xiang,
but the more
but
he
there was a
interacted,
flash of
the
light
more
in
he
her
could not
eyes.
ignore this ability.
Good elder sister, you look very proud
Her
right
eyes
now.
seemed to have the power
As
to
your
see
little
through
sister,
people's hearts.
I want to see just how long
Could
you
it
can
be
proud
that there was
for.
really mind reading in this world?
She stared at Chen Ning on the
He
horse's
suddenly
back
avoided
and
her
spoke in a
gaze,
soft voice,
as if afraid that she would
whispering
see
into her
through his
ear.
thoughts.
Lan
Everyone
Xiang's
had
eyes
the
lit up
instinct
and
to
she
protect
happily said,
themselves.
concubine consort.
They didn't want
Could it
others to
be?
see their inner thoughts easily, and he was no exception.
Chapter 227.
She could easily tell
The
what
two
he was
of them
thinking
did not
about.
notice Chen Bai-yun at
She
all.
felt it was funny and couldn't
Even
help
Chu
but tease
Xiaoyang
him.
had forgotten that there was someone like this on the horse track.
He was completely
Chapter
shocked by Chen
241.
Ning's learning and comprehension
Of course
skills.
I'm not afraid.
If it wasn't for
He
the fact
quickly
that he
replied,
personally saw that it was her
Since
first
you're
time
not
riding
afraid
a
of me,
horse, why
he
don't
would
you
have
look
thought
into my
that she was
eyes?
pretending to be stupid.
Are you afraid that I can
He had
see
never
through your
seen
heart?
anyone reach Chen Ning's
All right,
level on their
now
second
that it's
ride.
like this, I can only
It
tell
was like
you.
she was one with the horse.
Your guess isn't
cooperating
wrong.
very well.
I can read minds.
You're learning very
As
quickly.
long as I look at you,
Chu
I can guess what
Xiaoyang
you're
turned
thinking
his
in your
head
heart.
and looked at Chen Ning with an
Chen Ning
expressionless
purposely
face.
put away her smile and
This
spoke
time,
in a
he
serious
did not
voice.
avoid looking at her face that
Really?
looked like an actress.
Mo Chuan's heart
Strangely
violently
enough,
trembled.
as he got used to her
Once
ugly
he saw her
face,
black
he
and white
slowly
eyes,
accepted it.
he immediately looked away.
Thank you for the praise.
Ha, ha,
Chen Ning's
ha,
eyes
ha,
curved into a
ha.
smile. Chen
The
Ning
feeling
couldn't
of
help
riding the
breaking
horse
out in
made her
laughter.
feel very comfortable, and she
She
felt
laughed
that he was
so
more
hard that
pleasing
she
to the
bent
eye
over.
than usual.
You've
I'm
taught me
dying
quite
of
well.
laughter. But if
I'm
you want to
talking
win
nonsense,
against this king
but
in the
you
hunt,
actually
you're
believe it.
dreaming.
You.
Chu Xiaoyang raised his
Mo
chin
Chuan
and
was
arrogantly
embarrassed
said,
and angry
if you
as
want
he
to win the
suddenly
hunt,
stood up.
you can't just rely
Chen
on riding
Ning's
skills.
right foot fell to the ground.
No matter how good your riding
She gave
skills
an
are,
"eeth"
you will
sound
still
and stood
lose
up.
that day without a doubt.
After taking 2 steps,
Your Highness,
she
don't
found
be
that not
too
only did it
confident.
not hurt, the swelling on her
Otherwise,
ankle
your
had
face
also
will be
disappeared.
slapped painfully and it will be
It
hard to
looked no
tell who
different
will
from
win on
normal.
that day.
Xiao
Chen Ning
what
smiled
kind of
as she
treasure
raised
is
her
this
whip and
ointment?
slapped the horse's
places, but
it's simply too magical
the blue
and
and
too
white
easy
porcelain
to use.
horse neighed and flew out.
She picked
leaving
up the
Chu
ointment
Xiaoyang
and looked at it
behind.
left and right.
That date
She
red
even
horse,
pulled out the
this
cork and
princess will
sniffed it.
definitely take it.
It's not really
The
a
wind
treasure.
carried her clear and melodious
If you like it,
voice that
I'll
was
give it to
filled with
you.
ambition.
Mo
Chu
Chuan said with an
Xiaoyang
indifferent
narrowed his
expression.
eyes.
It was
Looking
like
at
he
her
had just
heroic
given
figure
something
on the
worthless.
horse's back, His lips unknowingly curled into a smile. He would have screamed out loud. Suddenly, the smile on his lips would not tell her that this ointment was personally made by the #1 divine doctor in the world. His legs clamped down on the horse's abdomen, and the jade flower horse shot out like lightning in the world, chasing after Chen Ning. He had obtained it by chance, and it was incomparably precious. This little bottle of ointment did not just improve blood circulation. It also had the miraculous effect of reviving the dead. If you dare harm a single hair, no matter how heavy the injury was, this king will take your life. The bleeding would stop and the muscles would stop bleeding. Was deafening. It was incomparably like thunder exploding on a clear day. Ron had always kept this bottle of ointment on him. Everyone on the horse track was stunned. But today, they saw Chen Ning had given it away without out of the track, charging right at Chen Baiyun under the tree. Although Chen did not say a single word, she could guess that this magical ointment was not a normal item. Stop! I don't have any use for this. You're an assassin, living on the edge of a blade all day. But the blue and white porcelain horse did not react at all. You'll be injured, so it's better if you keep it. It ran even faster. She smiled as she handed the bottle to Imo Chuan, raised up, sending dust flying. Seeing that Imo Chuan did not take its target, she stuffed it into his chest, as if it had a deep hatred for Chen Baiyun. You don't like what I've given you. It charged at Chen revealed a bit of hurt. Its target was Chen Baiyun's time he had given someone. Your Highness, Chen would reject it. I like it, the blue and white porcelain was very fast, and in the blink of an eye, Chen Ning said with a faint smile. She did not even have a chance to dodge. He would definitely be very worried for his master. She saw the blue and white porcelain stand up and raise its front hooves high up. He would definitely say, "Master." Chen Ning's heart almost jumped out. This is the first time you've given a girl a gift. She desperately should have given something that the girl watching as Chen Baiyun was about to die under the iron hooves of the blue and white porcelain horse. But you've actually given a bottle of Jinchuang ointment. Her mind was in a mess. Are you hoping for the girl to figure out what was going on? Why did the blue and white porcelain suddenly go crazy and charge at Chen Baiyun without any rhyme or reason? In everyone's eyes, this was all done on purpose. It was all because of her jealousy that she wanted to kill Chen Baiyun. Ning walked a few steps in the room and found that her right foot was fine. She looked up at Imo Chuan with gratitude. This change happened too quickly, and no one could react in time. The horse grooms were all on the other side of the horse track, glaring at him, so they couldn't save Chen Baiyun. It was late at night, and a man and woman were alone in a room. Seeing that Chen Baiyun was about to be trampled by the horse, spread out, it would not be good. In an instant, Chu Xiaoyang's horse had already made a solemn vow in front of everyone. He jumped off the back of the horse and grabbed Chen Baiyun. At the same time, Chapter 240 strike that hit the blue and white porcelain horse's suddenly abdomen. Looked up and looked at Chen Ning with a thoughtful look. His palm was very strong, and it sent the several hundred-pound horse and Chen Baiyun on its back flying into the air. The blue and white porcelain horse was hit by his palm. I don't know what kind of spice she's using to have such a strong smell. Its organs were all shattered, but it did not die. Chen Ning slightly knit her brows. It gave a pitiful cry in the air. She thought of when Chen Baiyun was standing in front of her horse. Chen Ning was thrown off the horse's almost back. Made her fall off her horse. She was thrown high into the air. She really didn't know how Chu Xiaoyang could endure this smell. As long as this fall landed, perhaps he loved the house and break her bones and break her tendons. Even if Chen Baiyun farted, even if she didn't still be fragrant, she would at least be paralyzed. Have you heard of the sudden smile? Only Chu Xiaoyang knew martial arts here, and only he could save her. This name was very strange. But Chu Xiaoyang was tightly holding the trembling head and thought about it in his arms. She really had seen it in a book before. His eyes were cold and emotionless as he looked at Chen Ning in the air with a trace of the yellow stone flower. It was like his feet were rooted to the ground, not moving at all, that is very beautiful, fall from the sky. But it contains a strong poison. Chen Ning looked at the blue sky and white clouds above her head. If a normal person accidentally eats its bulb, her lips curled into a bitter spasm and their heart will palpitate. Was she going to die like them to die? Perhaps she recited it like she would be able to return to her original world. Imo Chuan said in a surprised voice. She closed her eyes and allowed the wind to blow past her ears as she allowed herself to fall rapidly. I've only seen pictures of it in books and also descriptions of it. Then, however, she didn't. No. The force of her fall suddenly stopped. Chen Ning shook her head again. Her whole body fell into a strong and thick chest, making people want to vomit. Someone used his own body to catch her, shielding her body. You won't be able to forget it. That person held her and rolled several times on the ground. She thought that after reducing the force of her very fragrant, he protected her as she stood on Chen Baiyun's body. Chen Ning never thought her eyes in a daze.
She silently looked at him, waiting for him to continue.
She softly cried out.
She knew that he wouldn't mention this strange
flower. The person who had appeared out of nowhere to save her was Chuan, who had disappeared
slightly
last
knit
night.
his brows and thought back.
There was a trace of blood on the corner of his mouth, and his eyes revealed a look of pain.
I was riding a horse and suddenly
it was clear that the force of her fall was
too strong, and even with his deep internal energy,
but the horse I was riding suddenly started running, and no matter how I pulled on the reins,
but he still did not hesitate to use his body as a cushion.
My eyes lit up and I saw a large golden sea in front of me. When I got closer, I found that it wasn't a golden sea, but rather a large patch of chrysanthemum
felt like
flowers.
It was blocked by something.
The color was just like gold, and I had never seen such beautiful flowers before.
Last time,
so I
couldn't help
opening
my
from the
eyes
back
wide
of a
in curiosity.
But this time was completely
different.
I didn't pull on the reins and let the horse run towards
it was
the golden
equivalent
sea.
to using his own life to
the
exchange
closer
for
it got,
hers.
The stronger the stench became.
She stared at him in a daze.
I finally understood that the horse was
until she
attracted
could
by
barely
the stench.
make out his face.
Hearing this,
it turned out that
unknowingly
shivered.
Her eyes were already
she felt
filled
that in
with tears.
Chuan's narration,
There was a kind of dark and
feeling in her
terrifying
heart.
feeling.
She
It
could
was
only
like
tightly
something
bite her
important had
lips to
flashed
prevent
through
her
her
tears
mind.
from flowing out.
She heard Chuan continue.
He didn't
the
owe her
closer I
anything
got
at
to the
all.
sea of flowers,
On
the
the
more
other hand,
excited the horse
she owed him
became.
over and over again.
It charged
she had
straight
never
into
paid
the
him back
sea of
even
flowers.
once.
Although he had saved her twice,
At this time,
she didn't feel
I
much
suddenly
gratitude
felt a sense of
towards
danger
him and jumped off the horse
Instead,
without thinking.
she had always been very
I
wary
landed
of
on
him.
the edge of the golden sea
Even
of
when
flowers.
she brought him into the Wong Fu as
the
a
ground
bodyguard,
under my feet
she
was
had her
hard
own
rock,
selfish
but my
motives.
horse charged straight into
He
the
didn't
sea
have
of
to
flowers.
save her,
But he did it without
I only
hesitation.
heard a mournful neigh,
and
he
the
didn't
horse
have to
actually
appear,
disappeared
but
from
he
the sea of
appeared when
flowers.
she needed him the most.
I watched this
He,
unbelievable scene happen in front of me.
could
not think of an answer.
I was stunned and my mind
to her,
went blank.
He had always been an unsolved
After a while,
mystery. I realized that the
she
entire
had never
sea
been
of
able to
flowers
guess
was
it.
growing on the edge of the cliff. I
Chapter
managed to escape from
229.
death, but my horse
Are you injured?
fell off the cliff and became a pile of meat
lowered
paste.
his head.
His black eyes were like ink that could not be melted as he stared right at her.
Chapter 243.
Seeing the tears in her eyes,
Chen Ning clapped
he
her
couldn't
hands
help
together
slightly
and
knit
her
his
eyes
brows and
sparkled.
asked, "Are you hurt from
She
the
had
fall?"
finally found an answer to
I'm
the riddle
very
she had
sorry.
been thinking about,
I came
and
too late
everything
and
became
couldn't
clear
save
in
you.
front of her.
Don't be
Xiao
afraid.
Hei,
From now
you're
on,
right.
as long as I'm here,
This is because
I
the
won't
blue
let
and
anyone
white
harm a
porcelain
single
situation
hair on your
is
head.
the same as when you were in
When he
danger
had
in the
finished,
past.
he straightened his back like
It
an
also
unyielding
suddenly
pine,
charged a chin
spreading
by
out
Yun
his
and
thick
the smell
branches
of the
to
sudden
shield her
laughter
from the
would
wind
make the
and the
horse
rain,
excited,
to shield her
causing
from
it
all
to
the
lose
blades of the
control.
wind and the swords of the
As
frost.
for why
Chen Baiyun smothered
Each
herself
word he
with such a
said,
thick
each
perfume,
word was a
it
solemn
was to
oath.
cover up the sudden laughter
Chen
smell
Ning's
on her
heart
body.
suddenly felt warm and the
This
tears
way,
in her eyes
it wouldn't
almost
raise
fell.
any suspicions and people
But she
wouldn't
curled
be
her
able to
lips
guess
and
the
revealed
reason.
a faint smile at
Chuan's
Chuan's
eyes sparkled with
Her
praise
cherry
as he
lips
gave a
gently
slight
spat
nod
out
to
3
Chen Ning.
words.
Thank you.
He had only mentioned it
What
once,
she owed him,
but she had
it was
already
not
guessed
something
the
that could be
cause and
returned
effect
with
of
just
matter.
these 3 words.
She was not wrong
But
at all.
she was not in
She
a
really
rush.
was smart.
She would
Chen
deeply
Ning
remember
thought
his
about it
kindness
more and
in her
more,
heart.
she said.
No wonder she
Chuan
purposely
did not
walked
let
in front
go
of
of
my
her.
horse to talk to me.
She was
It was
still
to let the
lying in
blue
his
and
arms,
white porcelain
floating
smell
like
the
a
sudden
cloud.
laughter on her body.
He did not feel her
No,
weight at all
no,
and did not
if it was
think
like
of putting
this,
her down.
why didn't Chu Xiaoyang's
The people
jade
on the
flower
horse track
were
were
all
all
stunned by this sudden change.
She knit her brows and couldn't
No one
understand
made a sound
this.
as they all stared with
Chuan
wide open
thought
eyes
about
at
it and then
Chuan and
asked,
Chen Ning
"Think
in a
about it.
daze. After
Where
Chen
did this
Baiyun came to the
black-clothed
horse
man
track,
come from?
what did she do?
He really was bold.
Did she do anything strange?
In front of so many people,
Chen Ning
especially
curled
in
her
front
lips
of the
and
prince,
said without even
he dared
thinking,
to hug the
she
princess
came to give
and be
Chu
so
Xiaoyang
lovey-dovey
something
with
to
her.
eat and drink.
This was clearly
First
dyeing
she
the
took
hat
out a
on
bowl
his
of
highness'
angelica
head.
deer tail soup.
Did he
But
not
Chu
want to live
Xiaoyang
anymore?
didn't drink it and spilled
Or
it
did
on
the
the ground.
princess not want to live anymore?
Then she took out a plate of
Chu
soup dumplings
Xiaoyang
and Chu
slowly stood
Xiaoyang
up.
ate them all.
He put down
Then
Chen
she
Baiyun,
moved a
who had been
chair
tightly
under the
hugging
tree
him
and
didn't
looked
do
at
anything
Chuan with an
strange.
expressionless face.
Ah.
Then he
I
looked at
understand
Chen Ning
now.
with a cold gaze that seemed
I
like it could
understand
turn
now.
solid, piercing through
Her
Chuan
eyes
and
suddenly
Chen
lit
Ning.
up and she grabbed Chuan's
Chen
right
Baiyun rubbed
hand.
her eyes, not
She
daring to
excitedly
believe the
shouted,
scene in front of her.
"Soup dumplings."
She was so shocked
Soup
that her chin
dumplings.
almost fell off.
Chuan had a mask
How was
on
this
his face,
possible?
so it was hard to see if he
Chen
was
Ning
happy
was
or
clearly
angry.
about to fall to her death.
His eyes
But where
revealed
did
a
this
warm
wild
and
man
encouraging
come from
smile.
to save her?
Chen
But she
Baiyun
couldn't
must
help
have
wanting
put
to
an
break
antidote
out in
in
a
soup
proud
dumplings,
laugh.
and that antidote must be
Chen
something
Ning,
with a special smell.
Chen Ning, you
That
really are
smell
seeking
completely
death.
dispelled the temptation
You
of
are
the jade
hugging a
flower
wild man in front of his highness. That's why his horse didn't go crazy. Isn't this just seeking death? Chen Ning finally figured it all out, and her eyes revealed a look of extreme hatred. Then he wouldn't be the cold-blooded and ruthless king Chen Ning's eyes were filled with Chu Xiaoyang.
This truly is a sinister plan. Expected. She saw the veins on Chu Xiaoyang's mind would be this vicious, thinking of such a perfect plan to harm me, as if he was about to kill someone at any moment. Xiao He, if it wasn't for you saving me today, her plan would have succeeded. Chen Baiyun gently pulled on Chu Xiaoyang's sleeve and timidly asked, "Your Highness, I would have been killed by Chu Xiaoyang with a single palm, and I would be charged with the crime of killing a horse out of jealousy." In the broad daylight like this, the more afraid she became. The hand holding elder sister allow that man to hug you. Her words were like adding oil to a fire. From today onwards, making Chu Xiaoyang who was already on the verge of explode. No one. Mo Chuan, will always do what I say. Mo Chuan said word by word. Chen Baiyun was so scared that she instantly held her hands in his. Her face turned pale, were burning hot, but her heart was filled with pride. Words were even more heartwarming. Chu Xiaoyang was the second time he said this, but it shocked Chen Ning even more than the first time. He did not even look at Mo Chuan. She raised her head and stared at him in a daze. This was because she felt that his eyes were like thick ink that looked like the clothes of his palace, or more like a deep well with a whirlpool. Bastard, let go of this king's princess, and she would fall and leave you with a complete corpse. Chu Xiaoyang's body released a 10,000-year cold aura. Step by step, he walked over to Mo Chuan. Chapter 244. His fists were clenched, and there was the sound of sincere confession to her. It was clear that he was truly enraged. She really couldn't. Xiao Bai's sincerity towards her. 230. How could she let him down? The cold aura coming from Mo Chuan was even heavier than Chu Xiaoyang's, and there was also a cold killing intent coming from him. Looking down, stood there without moving. She softly said, "Xiao He." He gently put Chen Ning down, and then there was no need to say anything else. This action made Chu Xiaoyang even angrier. Your princess. She believed that Mo Chuan would understand her meaning. What qualifications do you have to say she's your princess? As expected, the light in Mo Chuan's voice was even colder, but he did not show any emotions on his face. Each word he said was filled with power. He calmly asked, "For a concubine that Chen Baiyun, you sent her flying with a single palm strike. You watched her fall from the sky and didn't save her, so what qualifications do you have to say she's your princess?" She curled her lips and looked at the candle on the table with a thoughtful mouth, not saying a word for a long time. He cursed to his heart's content, and the surrounding people did not say a word and just silently looked at her. The horse grooms couldn't help shaking their ears and rubbing their eyes. He suddenly felt that he was very close to her. They suspected that they were dreaming. It was like he could see into her heart, because they never would have dreamed that there would be someone in this world that dared to point at his highness' nose and curse at him. "I won't charge you for killing her this time." Lit up, and she almost wanted to applaud. His eyes were as cold as stars as they released a faint killing intent. So he turned around to leave. Every single word of his had struck deep into her heart. Chen Ning came back to her senses and quickly called out large slaps, slapping Chu Xiaoyang's cheeks. Mo Chuan turned around and slightly knit his brows. His face was red and filled with anger. He simply said, "His handsome face became twisted as his eyes finally fell onto Mo Chuan's face, and he slowly opened his mouth." She blinked and said, "If this king lets you die like this, my heart is soft. This king isn't surnamed Chu. No, I'm just thinking of a better way to deal with her." Almost ignited his entire body. "Then have you thought of one?" Other than anger, I've thought of there was also an indescribable emotion in his heart. Chen Ning's lips slightly curled up and her snow white as when he saw this man holding Chen Ning and the two of them whispering to each other. Her eyes were filled with high spirits, completely ignoring everyone around them. She said unhurriedly, he couldn't help wanting to kill someone. This method is to give them a taste of their own medicine. That was his princess, his woman. Let's hear it. Even if he didn't want her and threw her away, Chuan's eyes he wouldn't allow anyone to touch her. "I still need your help with this matter." Chen Ning like a mountain. "Xiao He, are you willing to help me?" Xiaoyang, who was filled with killing intent, eyes sparkled as she looked at him without blinking. Mo Chuan did not say a word and just silently laughed, and his voice was as cold as ice. Could it be that what he said before was not clear enough? Seeking death. How could he, Mo Chuan's words were like adding oil to a fire, making all of Chu Xiaoyang's blood rush to his head. Those bottomless eyes of his were filled with an overbearing aura out of his head as his right hand touched his waist, and a cold glowing sword appeared and avoiding his gaze. The sword glow was like water as it flowed endlessly. "This matter will be hard for you with a cold glow. If you're not willing, the sword was as soft as a snake as it danced in the air." Mo Chuan could only hear the sound of cold breath, but his meaning was already clear. The horse grooms around them were and then curled them up, revealing a fox-like evil smile. Never would have thought that Chu Xiaoyang would on her carry a soft sword on his waist. By Mo Chuan's ear, whispering a few words into his ear. Arrogant. As expected, in his strong martial arts, Mo Chuan's ears turned red and his body slightly trembled. Like mud had been kept close to his body. She took 2 steps back and sighed softly. But he had never used it in the last 10 years. "I know I'm making things difficult for you today." He wanted to actually make you do such a thing. He just wanted to kill. He just wanted to kill another black-clothed man in this. Shao. His right hand trembled and the soft snake-like sword suddenly became straight. His eyes sparkled as he stared at her and a suffocating feeling pressed down on her. The spirit snake sword was filled with internal energy as it whistled through the air. Before the sword arrived, the sound had already arrived. For you. This sword was filled with anger and its might was unstoppable. But his last two words were carried by the wind into Chen Ning's ears. This sword was not aimed at Mo Chuan's vital points. It was like her heart had been hit by something. He was not willing to kill Mo Chuan with this sword. He wanted to cut off Mo Chuan's tendons first and turn him into a cripple. Chapter 245. Then in front of Chen Ning, the next day, he would cut off all 10 of his fingers, early, cut off his hands, opening the window, and then cut off his arms. She saw the clear sky. Her mood was as good as the sky. Chapter 231. She slightly narrowed her eyes and looked at the red sun rising in the east, wail, and beg for mercy. Thinking of what was going to happen today, she was a little looking forward to watch this man slowly be tortured to death. A black-clothed figure suddenly appeared outside the window. See how this man would be chopped into meat paste, and then she found out that it was his beloved dog. Morning. He wanted everyone to see what kind of ending would befall anyone that wanted to touch his Mo Chuan did not say anything and just gave her a slight nod. Yang's eyes revealed a cold glow and his lips curled into a cruel smile, quickly turning away as if he could already see the flowers in the yard. The sword in his hand was like a poisonous snake, had turned red instantly again, stabbing in front of Mo Chuan. Mo Chuan did not dodge at all. What was it for this time? It was unknown if he was scared by Chu Xiaoyang's because of what she told him to do last night, or if he did not have time to dodge at all. It was possible. Xiao He, thinking of how she had thought of that idea, although she had seen a man like him do that kind of martial arts, especially with how proud he was, incomparably sharp sword with blood flowing out of his eyes, even she felt a little regretful when she thought about it. The reminder she blurted into a smile and continued to lean against the window. She was breathed in the fresh air while enjoying the beautiful scenery of the garden outside. Did she still have His Highness and her husband facing her, and he did not turn around? Cheap woman, this king will kill him first and then kill you. For a long time. He gave a wild roar, and the spirit snake sword's tip was already stabbing into She never thought that a cold and ruthless killer like him would feel shy. Revealed a fiendish smile. He had always released a cold killing intent before. But after being with him for this period and his eyes opened wide as he stared at the tip of his sword, and more afraid of him. The sword tip did not stab into his ears turn red. Skin. It made her want to tease rather him like even a magic more. Trick. It was caught between Mo She Chuan's suddenly gave a loud whistle at him, not moving at all. Chu Xiaoyang's back instantly turned stiff and his ears turned even redder. But it was like the sword was stuck in Mo Chuan's fingers and he disappeared into his own room. His heart was filled with shock. He had a bit of a sorry to his right arm. Chen Ning giggled seeing this. He suddenly shouted, her withdraw the sword slid down to her arms. All right, revealing her snow-white arms. Mo Chuan gave a cold smile by her fingers and when she saw her appearance, Chu Xiaoyang used all his strength this time. She quickly ran to the window and pushed her head into the window. All the blood in his body flowed backwards and his chest heavily trembled, like he had been hit by a giant hammer. He couldn't help opening his mouth and spitting out a mouthful of blood. Did you forget that bodyguard He lives next door? Everyone was shocked, not understanding what had just happened at all. Quickly put on your clothes. They only saw His Highness stab at the black-clothed man with his sword, and the man used two fingers to catch the window and quickly closed the window with a paw. Then His Highness shouted, "Withdraw the sword." She stuck her head out to look at Mo Chuan's room. In the end, seeing that the other side spat out a mouthful of blood as if he was seriously injured and let out a long sigh of relief. What was going on? Chen Ning felt could not understand, but Chu Xiaoyang, she looked at herself and found that the pajamas she was wearing were very comfortable. The rage and killing intent on his face had unknowingly vanished, compared to the clothes by a whisk of the modern era. Her clothes could be considered the most conservative. Took a deep breath and slowly exhaled. Chen Ning didn't know what she was wearing, but she didn't know what she was wearing. He already knew that he had suffered serious internal injuries. This girl was really making a fuss over nothing. This was in Chuan Chu of him. She glanced back and saw herself in the mirror. Had only revealed this one move from beginning to end, her waist, which was using her neck fingers to catch the tip of his sword. Coupled with the fact that she hadn't put on any makeup was enough to decide kind of lazy charm was faintly discernible. Mo Chuan's move of borrowing strength was even more ingenious. Ears were red. He had grasped the perfect timing because of what she asked him to do last night, to use his own internal energy to injure his organs. She felt it was even more funny. This move not only meant that Mo Chuan's martial arts man was really conservative, but his mind was also very to be shy. Little White was like this, and Little Black was also like this. Who are you? How did you sneak into this king's palace? Chapter 247. Who sent you to assassinate this king? Young miss, this servant will help you dress up. Stared right at Imo Chuan. Xiao Ru opened the door with such a high level of skill. She had already prepared a basin of water to wash her face and also brought a new set of hunting clothes. His first reaction was that the other side wanted to kill him. Sat down in front of the dressing table and looked at the new clothes. Imo Chuan softly raised his brows and asked, "Where did these clothes come from? Are you worthy?" The eldest princess did not look at someone to send them over. From the corner of his eyes, she said that the young Miss clothes must be old after wearing them for 2 days. Xu Xiaoyang was ignored once again, and he almost went crazy with rage. Look, this lake green one looks even better than the sky blue one. If he wasn't for the fact that Imo Chuan's unfathomable martial arts, happily raised the hunting clothes and showed them to Qin Ning. Even if it was like this, Qin Ning said, his right hand that was holding the sword was already trembling, and the spirit snake sword was like a snake. The eldest princess really spent too much on them. Do you still have any face? She looked at the new clothes and her heart was filled with love. You actually shamelessly hooked up with a man. This spring-like lake green really suited her taste. This man is the wild man you brought to the flowing cloud pavilion last night. You look too good wearing these clothes. This king is telling you, the eldest princess eyes are this really good. Princess, this color will forever be this king's woman. If you want to be together with this wild man, don't even think about it. After a while, she applauded. This king will announce your scandal to the world and let everyone know that you, the young miss of the Qin family's country protecting palace, without a single trace of makeup on it, is a real slut who hooks up with men. She was just like a white lotus, elegant and delicate. Stared at Imo Chuan and she was very disappearing backs as he loudly cursed. Qin Ning's face was like a white lotus blooming in the water. He blurted out such vulgar words. She sat in front of the dressing table and looked at the rouge powder box on the table when they heard it. After a bit of hesitation, she opened it not daring to believe that these words would come out of his highness' mouth. Before her plan was completed, she did not plan on letting Qu noble highness would actually curse like a hoodlum on the streets. Otherwise, there would be some trouble. The crows in the world will know her complex thoughts. Men all reacted that she had covered up her beautiful face. Even the noble highness was not spared. Young Miss, when can you let that bastard highness see your face? But Qin Ning and Imo Chuan she was really looking forward to that day. Pa. She thought everyone that if that bastard highness saw the young Miss beauty, followed by a heavy young Miss like this. I'm afraid that when he sees my face and looked at Imo Chuan who had suddenly appeared in front of him in disbelief. Qin Ning looked back and giggled at Xiao Ru, he was about to deliberately making a joke, but before he could even open his mouth, who would have thought that the left side of his face was heavily slapped. She nodded and praised, young miss, with this sound was even louder than the previous one and it was even heavier. He won't be able to move his eyes away. A trace of blood came out from the corner of Qu Xiaoyang's mouth. Qin Ning smiled and pinched Xiao Ru's cheek. What if he really falls in love with me and doesn't have been knocked off by these two slaps? In other people's eyes, his hair was disheveled, but in my appearance was a mess. He is just a dirty rag that Qin Xiaoyang did not dare believe it. I don't like how dirty he is. But he was the dignified King Ding Yuan, which man in this world doesn't have 3 wives and 4 concubines. He had actually been slapped twice in the face by a wild man that came out of nowhere. Might not. And it was in front of everyone's eyes. She secretly looked at Qin Ning, not daring to continue. Yang's face was burning hot. You're right. The pain was only a small part of it. It was mainly because of his embarrassment. I want. When the servants saw this scene, the good man in my heart will put me first in everything. Their Highness. He will love me, respect me, dote on me, and cherish me. Qin Baiyun came back to her senses and realized that the situation will never have a second woman in his heart. She called Lan Xiang what I am looking for is such a return to the palace and call his highness guards to protect her ugly face in the bronze mirror. Imo Chuan had already seen it from the corner of his eyes. The faint smile Chu Xiao Bai gave her in the wedding hall flashed in her mind. You dare hit this king, you brat. It was like a spring breeze, living, blowing pear blossoms all over the ground. That shameless woman. Do you know what your end will be? Looked at her ugly face in the bronze mirror. Qu Xiaoyang's words were squeezed out from between his teeth. The faint smile Qu Xiaobai gave her in the wedding hall flashed filled with poison. It was like a spring breeze, blowing away the pear blossoms on the ground. Chapter 233. Qin Ning's eyes shine brightly. Do you have the ability? Imo Chuan gave a contemptuous smile. Chapter 247. Qu Xiaoyang as a sharp aura was released from his body. She suddenly opened her mouth, wanting to say something, but then hesitating. His face turned white and his heart filled with an inexplicable fear. Then say it openly. Who was this man? Qin Ning rolled her eyes. The killing intent coming from him. This servant wants to say that bodyguard Hay is actually very good. I won't kill you because you're not worthy. I heard that he was the one who saved young Miss yesterday. Imo Chuan coldly and arrogantly raised his chin as he looked at Qu Xiaoyang with contempt. How about this servant go ask him if he has a family or is he rude and uneducated words? Before Xiao Ru could finish her rambling, Chen Ning picked up the egg Chu Xiao really gave her and stuffed it into her mouth. These 2 slaps are for you to remember. He is really People will always be humiliated by others. His martial arts are good and he has a good character. You better behave yourself. How about I help you be the matchmaker and marry you with rage? Chen Ning giggled and turned red as he shouted, I don't know where this wild man came from. What qualifications do you have to teach this mouth was stuffed with the egg and she couldn't say anything. The Emperor, she had an anxious expression as she shook her head. As he raised the spirit snake sword and stabbed at your young miss again. I'll feed you some mute medicine and you won't be able to speak for the rest of your life. In his body. Chen Ning glanced at Xiao Ru and left the room. His sword art was very exquisite. Once she left the room, she almost fell into very agile and the spirit snake sword turned into countless dots and looked over, just like a blossoming pear flower. She saw Mo Chuan's tall figure standing in front of the door, not his body floated up, dodging his sword. Xiao, why are you here? When he landed on the ground, after Chen Ning asked willow branch in his hand, she thought of how Mo Chuan had heard every word of her conversation with Xiao Ru. Branch. Especially her last words with Xiao Ru. I'll use this willow branch to teach you a lesson today. How long have you been here? Shook the willow branch in his hand. She probed another question. When Chu Xiaoyang saw this, his chest almost exploded with rage. His voice was very cold. This man did not place him in his eyes at all, not showing any joy or anger. He actually used a broken willow branch to deal with his spirit snake sword that could cut through iron like mud. In her stomach. Alright, although Mo Chuan was wearing a mask and she couldn't see his expression, don't blame this king for not warning you. Otherwise, how could he suddenly turn into a block of ice? With a flick of his wrist, body was ice cold and even when the sun shined on long snake there was no heat at all. His sword looked normal, but there were 9 powerful moves behind it. If the other side did not take out a weapon, culinary skills are not bad. It would be hard for them to block the endless porridge, side dishes, and various desserts. If Mo Chuan had a treasure sword in his hand, like them. It would not be hard to deal with this move. Chen Ning had a guilty conscience as she looked around. He would only need to use she was too embarrassed to look at Mo Chuan. But Mo Chuan's weapon was only a willow branch and it would break when it touched the blade. And why did she have to make fun of him and even say that she wanted to marry Xiao Ru? With a cold laugh, he shook the willow branch who killed without batting an eye. He did not dodge it and charged at the spirit snake sword. Mo Chuan stood in the same spot with his arms crossed in front of his sword, thinking that he would cut the willow branch in half. His deep dark eyes looked right at her, not saying a word or moving. Who would have thought that he would cut empty air? Felt even more embarrassment as she looked down and rubbed her nose, as if something heavy was wrapped around it. Who would have thought that after she took 2 steps, Mo Chuan's figure would suddenly appear in front of her and she would bump into him again. He changed a few sword moves, why are you always blocking my way? Shake it off. Chen Ning rubbed her sore nose, the sword became heavier and heavier, to the point that he almost couldn't lift it. What kind of strange move was this? He suddenly said. Chu Xiaoyang's heart was filled with shock. Chen Ning was confused. He wanted to let go of the sword. Have I ever had a family or been given a chance? Ask and I'll tell you. The willow branch in his hand slightly flicked and the spirit snake sword flew out of Chu Xiaoyang's hand. Chen Ning straight up and it was like a dancing silver snake flying into the sky. Her face turned completely red. Chapter 234. Cool. You better clean your mouth. Turned red as she muttered. What does that have to do with me whether you're married or not? I won't be as polite as today. Mo Chuan did not speak and his feet did not with an expressionless face. She had no choice but to ask helplessly. Well, then let me ask you, how old are you this year? A gust of wind blew by. Have you ever been married or engaged? He suddenly felt a chill. She could only helplessly ask, all right, he was shocked. Then I'll ask you. He saw that a large piece of his clothes was missing. Have you ever been married or engaged? His light wheat-colored skin. Chen Ning nodded with a smile. His back was also cold. All right, so the clothes on his back must have been cut by Mo Chuan's willow branch. Can you let me go now? What made him feel the most embarrassed still did not move. His 2 bare thighs were exposed to everyone's eyes. Are you forgetting something? This was Mo Chuan being merciful. What? Only cutting off 2 of his trousers. She asked in a strange voice. If he had cut off his belt, he would have been naked in front of everyone. Chu Xiaoyang was so embarrassed that he wanted to find a hole to hide in. Her cheeks burning hot. It was Chen Baiyun. She gave a chuckle as she tried to change the topic. She quickly took off her cloak and wrapped it around Chu Xiaoyang. Is that so? Preventing him from losing face in front of everyone. Chu Xiaoyang let out a sigh of relief and the heat on his face disappeared. You must have heard wrong. You must have heard wrong. Looked at Chen Baiyun. She quickly went around him and ran out of the yard in a panic. That cheap woman Chen Ning could never compare to Yun. Damn. After exchanging a few moves with Mo Chuan, he knew that if they were to fight,
why is it that nothing
his martial
escapes
arts
his
could not
ears?
compare to the other side.
Chen Ning hatefully thought.
A wise man did not fight
She
when the
suddenly
odds
felt
were
like
against
she had
him.
made a stupid decision.
He temporarily swallowed
If she
his
knew
anger
that
and
Mo
remembered
Chuan's
this
ears
debt
were this sharp, she
For
would
a
not have
gentleman
let him
to
live
take
in the
revenge,
flowing cloud
10
pavilion.
years was not too late.
From now on,
she would not have the
you
freedom
are
to
jealous
speak.
of Yun, so you
She
used
looked
your
up at the
horse to
sky
kill
and
Yun,
wanted to cry.
Not only did this
in
king
order
see
to
it,
avoid
everyone
embarrassment,
here saw
Chen
it.
Ning did not even eat breakfast.
Even if this matter was reported to
She
the
took
emperor,
the date
he
red
would
horse
still be
and directly
sentenced to
came
death.
to the horse track.
A woman's heart is
She
the
saw
most
Chu
vicious in the
Xiaoyang
world.
with a single glance and
I
was
didn't
very
expect
surprised.
you to be so vicious.
He actually came this
Yun
early.
is pregnant with this
He
princess
was wearing
child,
a spring green
yet you're
robe
still
with a white
so
jade
ruthless,
belt around his
almost
waist,
causing her to lose both
It
her
made
life.
his face look even more
Let
like
this
jade,
prince
and
tell
his
you,
brows were
this
very
matter
delicate.
will not end like this.
The jade flower was
Chu
standing beside
Xiaoyang
him.
had suffered a large loss.
The horse
under
was
Mo
also
Chuan's
very
hands.
handsome, looking like a painting.
He did not dare provoke Mo
It was a
Chuan
pity
again,
that Chen Ning
so
did
he
not
aimed
like
his
this
spirit
painting
Chen
at
Ning.
all.
It was this person who had
took
almost
2 steps
killed her
forward
like a
without
willow in the
distinguishing
wind.
between right and wrong yesterday.
Tears flowed down as she held her
She
stomach
saw
and
him
said,
as an enemy,
elder sister,
and her eyes
little
reddened
sister
with
has
hatred.
never offended elder sister,
But she hid it
so
very
why must
well,
elder sister
not
treat
revealing
little
a single
sister
trace
so
of it on her
ruthlessly?
face.
Even if his highness
Instead,
dotes on
she
little sister
smiled
and makes
greeted
elder
him,
sister
Your
angry,
Highness, this
you're
unborn
early.
child is still innocent.
Chu Xiaoyang's eyes
The
fell
two of
onto
them
her
were
light
accusing
green
Chen
riding
Ning of
clothes,
using
and a
her
look of
horse to kill
disgust
people
flashed
out
in
of
his
jealousy.
eyes.
Chen
He gave
Ning
a couldn't
snorted
help
and
wanting
said,
to laugh.
Where did these clothes come from?
Her eyes fell onto the blue
The
and
eldest
white
princess
porcelain
sent
horse
someone
that
to
had
send them
stopped
over.
breathing.
The
Chen
horse
Ning
was
looked at
already
his
dead,
robe.
so there was no proof.
It was also
what she
brand
said.
new and was made of the same
If it
material
wasn't for the
as her
horse
own.
not reacting when she
Her
pulled it
heart
several
instantly
times,
understood what was
perhaps
going
she would have
on.
thought it was on purpose.
This eldest princess was
but she
truly
was certain
thoughtful.
that this matter was not an
Did
accident,
she think that by
but
making
rather
two
it was a
matching
very
clothes
well.
for the two of them, they would become a couple?
This was not a bad thing.
That was
She
simply
would not
impossible.
take it.
Meddlesome.
You are my younger sister.
Chu Xiaoyang angrily said.
I don't even have time to dote on you.
His right hand pulled at his waist.
Why would
and
I
the
hurt
white
you
jade
and the
belt
child
was
in
cut
your
in
womb?
half, falling to
Do
the
you
ground?
think I'm such a heartless person?
His hands pulled again,
It was
and the robe
obvious
on his
that
body
someone
was
wanted
cut
to
in
frame
half.
me and kill me with a barbed
With a gust
knife,
of wind,
eliminating
it was
both
sent
of us in
flying.
one fell swoop.
Under his robe was
This
a dark
person
green
is very
set of
vicious
clothes.
and has ulterior motives.
Chen Ning clapped her hands
Your
and
Highness,
said with a
little
smile,
sister,
this
good
matter
job,
was caused
beautiful.
by me. So give me
This
3
princess
days.
is also feeling a bit
in
hot.
3 days,
so I want to take
I will
off my
definitely
clothes.
find this person and hand him
Yeah,
over to your
I'm
highness
also wearing
and
dark
little
green
sister to
clothes
deal with.
underneath.
Chen
This
Ning
is
knew
really
that White Lotus
unfortunate.
had good acting skills,
Your
but
Highness,
her own acting
why don't you
skills
take
were
off
not
another
bad
one?
either. Chu
These words
Xiaoyang's
immediately
face
shut the
instantly
mouths
turned
of the
green.
surrounding people who were
He
discussing
gritted his
among
teeth
themselves.
and said, Chen Ning.
I'm
Chapter
just joking.
235.
I'm just joking.
Chen Ning softly
Even if you
said,
want to take it off,
doesn't matter
this
if
one,
your highness
this
doesn't
princess
believe
is
this
not.
princess. Chen Ning
In
giggled
3
as she
days,
jumped
if
onto
I
the red
can't find
horse's
that
back.
person, I will give your highness and little sister an explanation.
She looked in the direction of the
At that
intoxicated
time,
flower
you can cut
pavilion
me
and
open
said
or
in a
cut me
seemingly
into
unintentional
10,000
voice,
pieces.
You
Why
can
is
do
a
whatever
little
you
sister
want.
by Yun here today? But I only have one
She-
request.
This princess
Chen
had not
Baiyun's
had
heart was
breakfast
filled
yet.
with joy as she blurted
Chen
out,
Ning
what
Ning.
request? Chen
Ning's eyes paused
Chen,
on her face
she,
for a second
Xiao
before she
Chen,
revealed
Ning,
a faint smile
Chen,
and said,
she,
in these
and
3 days, everything
Chu
must be as
Xiaoyang
normal.
coldly said,
Chen
there
Ning,
can be no
you
strange
really won't
movements
give
in the
up.
palace to avoid
You didn't
alerting
harm
the
Yun
enemy.
or yesterday.
Do you
This
want
is
to
because
harm
I
her again
believe that
today?
the person secretly plotting
Your
this
Highness,
is hiding in
you
the
can
palace.
eat whatever you want, but
Your
you can't
Highness,
say whatever
little
you
sister,
want.
can you fulfill this
You
request?
keep insisting that I want to harm
Chen
little sister
Baiyun
by
wanted
Yun,
to say something,
but what proof do
but
you
Chu
have?
Xiaoyang glared at her
Chen
and she
Ning's smile
immediately lowered
disappeared
her
and
head.
her face sunk.
Everything must be as
Chu
normal.
Xiaoyang gave a cold
Does
laugh.
this mean that
Proof.
you'll come to the horse track
You
tomorrow
charged
and
at
this
Yun
king will
or with your
continue
horse
to teach you how to
yesterday?
ride?
Everyone here clearly
Chu
saw it.
Xiaoyang immediately
They are all
understood
witnesses.
Chen Ning's meaning. I don't need you to teach me. I just want you to personally see how this princess
Chapter
finds that
249.
person. Chen Ning did not even look at him and
she
spoke in a
suddenly
cold
revealed
voice.
a smile.
It was
Your
like she
Highness
was a
is
completely
truly
different
lucky.
person from before when she
Little
was smiling
sister
at
Bai
him.
Yun is truly
Chu
considerate towards
Xiaoyang's
you.
heart instantly felt
Now
blocked.
she's even rushing over to bring
Although
you
she
food.
looked very ugly when she
It
smiled, really makes one
Her cold
envious.
face made him feel even
Chu
more
Xiaoyang
uncomfortable.
turned around and saw
All
Chen
right,
Baiyun's
this
slim
king will
figure
give you
appear
3
in his line of
days.
sight.
He
Wang
angrily
Xiang
said.
was holding a box of food
Chen Ning
right
ignored
behind
him
her.
and turned to Mo Chuan to say,
It was clear that
"Let's
she had
go."
been dressed up today.
She had just taken 2
Her
steps
eyebrows
when
were
her body
lightly
suddenly
painted and her
tilted
lips
and
were
she
dyed
almost
red.
fell to the ground.
Before she even
Mo
arrived,
Chuan rushed
a fragrant
forward to
wind had
support her
already
and said
blown
in a
over.
concerned voice, "What's
Yun
wrong?" why are you here
Chen Ning
again?
did not reply.
Didn't the imperial physician tell you to rest in bed and nurture the fetus? Not even looking back. Chu Xiaoyang slightly knit his brows. Your foot is injured. It seemed like he was unhappy. He noticed that her right foot did not dare to fix her hair that had been messed up by the wind. Although she hit it very well, he could still see red lips slightly opened, and she said with a smile, "Let me take a look." Your Highness came early in the morning. He grabbed her right foot without saying anything and rolled up her trousers to take a look. For your Highness. He saw that her snow-white ankle did not even have time to speak before Chen Ning smiled and said, his eyes instantly turned cold as he coldly looked at Chu Xiaoyang. This princess and his highness were talking about how hungry I was, and little sister immediately came to bring his belly. A small part of it had hit for so many years, but I have never tasted the food that little sister has made. I just need to apply some medicine when I go back, and his highness tastes little sister's cooking. Chen Ning calmly put down her trousers and endured the pain to get up to leave. It was like she had just seen Chen Ning. Mo Chuan did not even think as he reached out with his arms and hugged her across his chest. Then she said with a smile, "So elder sister is also here." Chu Xiaoyang's eyes were filled with rage, really is a coincidence. Could not suppress it. Little sister didn't know that elder sister would come this early, so I only prepared food for his highness. A dignified princess was actually hugging a wild man. Lan Xiang, quickly go back and bring some breakfast for elder sister. Ben Wang wants to write a letter to General Shen and ask him how he gave off today was even thicker than yesterday. Chen Ning did not cover her nose and took a few deep breaths. But he's this princess can't eat the food given to his highness. He turned around and angrily said, ingredients in the food. You really can't change your ways. Chen Ning gave a lazy smile as she slightly narrowed her eyes. Elder sister is joking. Little sister is preparing sweet dumplings for his highness. He looked at Chen Ning with a puzzled expression. To eat salty ones. He didn't little sister remembers that elder sister followed her orders and let her down. Lan Xiang, why aren't you cooking some sweet dumplings for elder sister? Suddenly looked right at Chu Xiaoyang. Shen Baiyun shouted at Lan Xiang. Her eyes were as cold as ice, and there was not a trace of a smile on her face. The dumplings that little sister personally made her little sister's feelings from his highness. As an elder sister, how can I not be tactful? Chapter 236. You can slowly feed his highness. Chu Xiaoyang, listen to me clearly. Chen Ning smiled as she waved her hand. He is called Xiao He and is my personal bodyguard. What kind of fragrance is little sister using? It seems even more fragrant than yesterday. Sit upright. The smile on Chen Baiyun's face of the King Ding Yuan but she quickly said as if nothing had happened that will lose my Chen family's face. Spice. If you continue to slander me and Xiao have Lan Xiang I will fight you to the death. Chu Xiaoyang, if you don't like me, then I'll have to thank little sister. But if you want to slander me and slander my character to the side, that's absolutely not allowed. She pulled a few stalks of grass to feed the date each word with force. Chu Xiaoyang quickly finished eating the dumplings and looked determination as she stared at Chu Xiaoyang without blinking. Seeing her relaxed appearance, it didn't seem like she was looking for the culprit at all. Chen Baiyun was also stunned. His heart filled with anger. The horse grooms and servants present were also stunned. It was like Chen Ning had eyes in the back of her head. Her face was still covered in ugly makeup, with a smile, but her entire body was filled with a glow that could not be ignored. Do you dare to compete with me to see whose horse is faster? That strong aura made people completely ignore her face. Are you worthy? Her eyes were black and white, just like clear snort as he looked at the date red horse. There was not a single impurity in them as they clearly swept across the entire crowd. You aren't even worthy of carrying this king's shoes. I'll say it one last time. Is that so? It's still the same words. I'm a pure person. Don't be too confident. The heavens and earth can prove it. If your highness loses, if any shady words are spread from today onwards, no matter who it is, how will you know who won or not let anyone here go? Her words were said in a domineering manner. Everyone who was swept by her gaze believed her words without a shred of doubt. The date red horse let out a long neigh and began to run forward. Even if they did not believe her, they would believe the unfathomable black-clothed man beside her. Her clear voice was carried by the wind. If they dared to provoke this kind of man, would they were truly afraid of death. Chu Xiaoyang stared at the glowing Chen without any hesitation. It was like his chest had been hit by something. His legs tightened as he chased after trembled and a strange feeling filled his heart. Chen Baiyun watched as the two of them ran further and he did not recognize at all. Her lips slowly curled into a faint smile. She had her own pride, and she had a bottom line that he could not touch. Skills were really good. In his life, after just half a lap, the first time his jade flower horse had already passed the date red horse's head. Without saying a word, he walked over and once again carried her back and coldly looked at Chen Ning.
He was very careful not to touch her wounds, as if he was carrying a rare treasure. Chen Ning did not look at him. He turned around and walked away with large strides. Her eyes fell onto the slender figure in the distance, and she raised her whip with a smile as she said, "We're still far from the finish line." She silently leaned against Mo Chuan's chest. "Let's just ride the donkey and read the book. Giving a silent sigh." The wind lifted the corners of her forward and instantly passed causing them to shine with a golden light. Not giving up until you see the coffin. Stood in the same spot and looked at her fluttering whipped the horse's butt. His heart felt empty, flower horse as if something was missing, and charged forward like even it was after flying. So many years. In the blink of an eye, clear as yesterday, it had passed the date red horse and was running faster and faster. It was a pity that he did not know what he had lost very in that quickly. Moment. Chen Ning and her horse were left far behind, and Mo Chuan had left for a long time. Chu Xiaoyang's heart was filled with pride. Chu Xiaoyang was still standing in the horse field. The proud smile on his face froze and his eyes in the direction Chen Ning disappeared like he had seen something unbelievable. He did not move at all. He saw the several horses in the stable charge out at the same time. The horse field was completely silent, and they heavily landed on the ground, the wind could causing the ground to slightly tremble. The horse grooms all retreated far away. The horse grooms were all shocked, and none of them dared to talk to him. Even Chen They never would have thought that these horses that had been tied up in the stable would suddenly charge out at the same time, especially when she saw Chu Xiaoyang's disappointed expression. The most unbelievable organs felt like these horses were all running in the same direction, charging towards a single target. That cheap woman. And that target was Chen Bai another day standing at the edge of the horse track. However, that slut suddenly had such a highly skilled black-clothed bodyguard fall to the ground. Even Chu Xiaoyang's if she wanted to achieve her goal, it would not be so easy. He gave a heart-rending roar and heavily whipped the jade flower horse's butt. He urged the horse to fly as he charged in Chen Bai Yun's direction. His heart almost jumped out of his chest and his eyes turned red. There was only one thought in his mind: save her. He had to save her. The horse grooms finally reacted and quickly chased after the horses. But with their 2 legs, how could they run faster than the 4 legs of the horses? But they did not dare not chase, and they had to chase. Chen Bai Yun was scared silly. Seeing this large group of horses madly rushing towards her, she was so scared that her limbs went soft. She wanted to escape 100 times in her heart, but her 2 legs only cared about trembling, unexpectedly unable to move a single step. Lan Xiang, who was standing behind her, was also shocked. She opened her mouth and desperately shouted, "Your Highness, save me." Lan Xiang, who was standing behind her, was also shocked. "Your Highness, save me." The neighing of the horses, the running of the horses, the cries of alarm, and the cries mingled together. Chen Ning stopped the date red horse and sat on the horse's back. She smiled as she watched this scene, just like she was watching a wonderful play. Chu Xiaoyang stopped his horse. When he saw a dozen fine horses raising their hooves and charging towards the woman he loved the most, he went mad. He desperately whipped the horse, not caring about the jade flower horse's life at all. Finally, at the last moment, he rushed over and grabbed Chen Bai Yun, saving her on the horse. But Lan Xiang behind Chen Bai Yun was not as lucky. Chapter 251. The front hoof of a horse kicked her in the head with a loud crack, and the expression of terror on her face was forever frozen in time. Her skull was broken and her brain was split open as she fell to the ground. Following that, the hooves of several horses stepped over her body and she was instantly turned into a pile of meat paste. Lan Xiang. Seeing this terrifying scene, Chen Bai Yun's eyes rolled back and she instantly fainted. Chu Xiaoyang's chin tightened as his cold eyes swept over Lan Xiang's corpse. He tightly held Chen Bai Yun and continued to wildly charge forward. Those several horses did not stop as they charged forward like crazy, chasing behind his horse's butt. It was like they had a deep grudge against Chen Bai Yun in his arms. Although Chu Xiaoyang's jade flower horse was more spirited than these horses, it was still carrying 2 people. Adding in the fact that the several dozen horses were charging forward like they didn't care about their lives, they quickly closed the distance. The horses were getting closer and closer to Chu Xiaoyang and Chen Bai Yun. If Chu Xiaoyang did not let go of Chen Bai Yun, it was very likely that he would also be turned into meat paste by these crazy horses. Damn! Bastards! Bastards! Have you all gone crazy? Father is your master, master. Chu Xiaoyang's face turned livid with anger as he angrily scolded the horses behind him. These horses were all famous colts that he had carefully selected from all over the world. He was a horse lover, and every horse that he bought would be carefully raised by someone. He would even come to the stud farm every day to spend some time with these beloved horses, and then he would gallop them to the groom. He knew that good horses recognized their masters the most, so when these horses saw him, they would raise their heads and happily greet him. But today, none of the horses seemed to recognize him. The horses snorted heavily through their noses, their eyes were as wide as copper bells, and they charged forward with all their might. Chu Xiaoyang's stomach was about to explode with anger. He did not know why these horses had gone crazy, but he knew that if he did not let go of Qin Baiyun, even he would not be able to escape. Damn! Bastards! You're all animals. Chu Xiaoyang continued to curse. He gritted his teeth and with a flick of his wrist, he took out the spirit snake sword from his waist. The sword glowed under the sunlight, releasing a dazzling white light. The only thing he could do now was to cut his wrist. Chu Xiaoyang held the spirit snake sword as he stared at the horses chasing after him. He gritted his teeth, but he could not do it no matter what. He suddenly gave a long roar as he grabbed Qin Baiyun and threw her onto a nearby elm tree. He used just the right amount of strength and Qin Baiyun safely landed on 2 branches, still unconscious. The horses immediately changed their direction and charged straight towards the big elm tree. They raised their front hooves and stomped heavily on the thick tree trunk. At the same time, they raised their heads and neighed. Although the trunk of the elm tree was thick, the hooves of the horses were even harder. With several dozen hooves, there were several cha, cha, cha sounds as the trunk of the elm tree that needed 2 people to wrap their arms around it began to crack. But Chu Xiaoyang used this moment to catch his breath. He jumped off the jade flower horse and landed on the back of a wild horse under the elm tree. With a paw sound, he slapped the horse's ear and the horse fell to the ground. Its legs twitched as it fell unconscious. Chapter 252. In the blink of an eye, several dozen wild horses had been knocked unconscious by Chu Xiaoyang's palm and they all fell to the ground. The horse grooms were all panting as they ran over. Seeing the unconscious horses on the ground, their mouths were wide open, not knowing what to do. Chu Xiaoyang's face was as white as paper. He felt the air in his chest churn and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. His several palms seemed weak, but it had already consumed most of his internal energy. His internal injuries had not healed yet and adding in the fact that he had used too much strength, it could be said that he had suffered even more injuries. He gritted his teeth and swallowed down the sweet taste in his throat. With a tap of his foot, he jumped up and picked up Qin Baiyun from the elm tree. Qin Baiyun had just woken up and had just escaped death. Thinking of Lan Xiang's tragic death, her body began to tremble. She fell into Chu Xiaoyang's arms and trembled. She was so scared that she could not even cry. "I beg your highness for mercy. Your highness, please forgive us." The horse grooms all kneeled down on the ground. Their faces were all pale, as if a great disaster was about to befall them. Chu Xiaoyang's eyes turned red as he stared at the horse grooms. The hand holding the spirit snake sword began to tremble, wishing he could chop off their heads one by one. "You! This king wanted you to raise horses and you raised them like this for this king. What's the use of dogs like you for?" He raised the spirit snake sword in his hand with killing intent. "We're wronged, your highness. The servants don't know anything." The horse grooms all cried out in unison and their cries shook the heavens. "Your highness, please calm your anger. If you kill these horse grooms, wouldn't the truth of this matter be buried and we would never be able to find the culprit? Chen Ning rode her horse forward and jumped off the date red horse. She looked at the horse grooms with a faint gaze. I beg the princess consort to save us. When the horse grooms heard her words, it was like they had grasped onto a life-saving straw. They all began to kowtow to her. Chen Ning revealed a smile and said, "What use is there in begging me? I am just an unfavored princess, His Highness will just treat my words as fart. You should be begging His Highness' precious baby, isn't that right, little sister Bai Yun?" I. Chen Bai Yun's lips trembled, but she couldn't say a single word. She was still in a state of shock. The tragic scene of Lan Xiang's death was still flashing in front of her eyes. Just a little bit more and the person who was trampled into meat paste by the horse was her. She forcefully grabbed Chu Xiaoyang's clothes and said in a trembling voice, "Kill. Kill them, all. All of them. To avenge Lan Xiang." The coachmen's faces turned ashen and they collapsed to the ground. Chu Xiaoyang tightly hugged Chen Bai Yun. His eyes were like an angry lion as he looked over the horse grooms. Everyone who was swept by his gaze felt as if they had fallen into an ice cave. "Guards!" His cold voice was forced out from between his teeth. His follower, Shaoanzi, appeared out of nowhere and bowed, "Your servant is here. Pass down my orders, chop off the heads of these dog slaves, then turn them into minced meat and feed them to the dogs." He gnashed his teeth. "Your Highness, spare me, spare me." The coachmen cried and kowtowed, their foreheads bleeding. Chu Xiaoyang acted like he didn't hear anything as his eyes flashed with a cold and cruel glow. Shaoanzi was prepared to send down the order to summon the guards, but Chen Ning suddenly took a step forward and blocked his path. Chapter 253. Chu Xiaoyang's cold eyes fell onto her face and he coldly said, "What do you want to do?" Seeing the calm expression on Chen Ning's face, a thought suddenly flashed in his mind. Could this accident be related to her? But what method did she use to make those horses suddenly go crazy? She didn't have that kind of skill. "Your Highness, did you forget what I said yesterday?" Chen Ning lazily curled her lips and spoke as if nothing had happened. "What words?" Chu Xiaoyang snapped. Chen Ning blinked. "So your Highness is this forgetful? You've already forgotten what you heard yesterday. It seems like what your Highness needs to drink isn't Angelica deer tail soup, but rather a brain-nourishing pill. This king doesn't have time to listen to your nonsense." "Shaoanzi, why aren't you going?" Chu Xiaoyang gave another sharp shout. "Your Highness truly has a big temper. Since you don't want to find the killer that wants to hurt little sister, then I won't worry about it. Little sister has been frightened, so your Highness should quickly find a doctor to take a look at her. Don't let little sister keep talking about killing people, it's just too scary. Little sister still has a child in her stomach, don't you want to accumulate some good fortune for your unborn child?" Chen Ning curled her lips and looked at Chen Bai Yun with a taunting gaze. Chen Bai Yun's body trembled and she couldn't help covering her stomach. She buried her head deep into Chu Xiaoyang's chest and said in a trembling voice, "Your Highness, Yun is very scared." Chu Xiaoyang's eyes were filled with a scarlet killing intent as he suddenly grabbed Chen Ning's right wrist. He snapped, "Speak clearly for this king. Are my words not clear enough?" Chen Ning gave a z sound and looked at Chu Xiaoyang with a smile. "Does your Highness always like to move your hands when you speak? Holding my hand like this, aren't you afraid little sister Bai Yun will be jealous?" "You!" Chu Xiaoyang was so angry that his veins popped out. It was like he had been bitten by a snake as he let go. Chen Ning was not in a rush. She took out a snow-white handkerchief from her chest and wiped the hand that Chu Xiaoyang had just grabbed. Her actions almost made Chu Xiaoyang explode with anger. "Chen Ning," he said word for word. His eyes were as cold as a knife. "Let's talk properly, there's no need to hold hands. Doesn't your highness want to find little sister's killer? Now that you've found it, why hasn't your highness dealt with it? Now that you've found it, why hasn't your highness dealt with it yet?" Chu Xiaoyang's eyes followed the white handkerchief that was being blown by the wind. His temples were throbbing in pain and his ears were ringing, so he did not hear what Chen Ning was saying at all. He came back to his senses and asked, Chen said. "Chen?" ? Chen Ning pursed her lips into a smile. She pointed at the dozen or so unconscious horses on the ground and said, "It's right here. These horses are the culprits. Didn't Wang Yi personally say that if I let my horse hit someone, then I would be the one to harm Mimi? Then if those horses hit Mimi, how could they escape the crime of murder? Chen. These horses would not go crazy and charge at Yun for no reason. Chen Ning, tell me, did you do it?" Chu Xiaoyang's eyes were filled with killing intent as he viciously stared at Chen Ning. Chapter 254. Chen Baiyun couldn't help trembling as her face turned as white as paper. Tears began to fall as she pitifully grabbed onto Chu Xiaoyang's clothes. "Your Highness, Lan Xiang, she died so miserably. Your Highness, you have to take revenge for Lan Xiang." She choked with sobs as she closed her eyes. That delicate and weak appearance made Chu Xiaoyang's heart clench as he felt an indescribable pain. He did not care about the death of a little girl. In his eyes, it was just like an ant dying. What made his heart ache was Chen Baiyun's tears. Seeing her tears, his mind was filled with the image of her from 8 years ago. At that time, her hair was disheveled and her face was covered in water and tears. He could only remember her eyes filled with tears. "Yun, you can be assured, I will definitely take revenge for you," he firmly said. "That's right, Your Highness, you have to take revenge for little sister. How about you kill all these sinful horses that want to hurt little sister?" Chen Ning put away the smile on her face and pointed at the horses on the ground with righteous indignation. "You!" Chu Xiaoyang's eyes popped out. If he was willing to kill these horses, he would not have wasted a large amount of his internal energy to knock them out. In his eyes, these horses were much more important than the horse grooms kneeling on the ground. It was clearly the horse grooms who did not look after them properly, causing this king's beloved horses to go crazy, causing this disaster. What does it have to do with the horses? It's all the fault of these servants. This king wants to cut off their heads and you're stopping me. Could it be that you ordered them to do this? Chu Xiaoyang was very aggressive as he directly questioned Chen Ning. Chen Ning took a step back and used her hand to fan her nose. "Your Highness' tone is quite big. Did you not brush your teeth this morning? Don't drink deer tail soup next time, have little sister make you some clear soup to drink. You say that I ordered them to do this, but does your Highness have any proof?" Chu Xiaoyang gritted his teeth in anger. He argued back, "You say that you didn't do it, but what proof do you have? It was clearly the horses that made a mistake, but your Highness wants to push it onto a person. Speaking of this, the main culprit of this matter is not anyone else, it is your Highness' beloved, little sister Yun." Chen Ning looked at Chen Baiyun, her eyes staring right at her. You're speaking nonsense." Chen Ning's face fell as she screamed. "Good little sister, what are you so excited for? Elder sister's meaning is that little sister Yun is truly too beautiful and enchanting. Not only have you captivated His Highness, even His Highness' horses have been captivated by you. Yesterday's blue and white porcelain was like this, and today's dozen horses are also like this. Speaking of this, it can't be blamed on these horses. They must have treated little sister as a mare, fighting to be the first to find little sister. Ah, I've been rude, I've been rude. Your Highness, do you understand what I mean? Although Ning did not say the word mating, anyone with ears could understand what she meant. The coachmen knelt on the ground with their heads bowed. Although they were terrified, they almost laughed when they heard this. Chu Xiaoyang was so angry that his face turned livid. He wished he could block Ning's mouth. He knew that if Ning kept talking, he didn't know what else she would say. Ning, this king disdains hitting women, but there are some women that want to be hit. This king will not show any mercy. He slowly clenched his fists. Chapter 255. Ze, Your Highness is truly considerate towards little sister Yun, but this princess is not someone you can do whatever you want. Ning's smile suddenly disappeared and her cold eyes made Chu Xiaoyang's heart skip a beat. If you want to find out the truth, it's very simple. You just need to take off little sister Yun's clothes and find a horse to smell it. That horse will go crazy just like the blue and white porcelain. She said word for word. Chu Xiaoyang knit his brows and said, What do you mean? Isn't it obvious? I don't know what kind of fragrance little sister Yun is wearing, but even the horses are enchanted by it. Your Highness has been with little sister Yun every day, so you should be used to this fragrance, but your horses can't resist it. So, don't blame the horse grooms for not watching over them and don't blame the horses for going crazy for no reason. If you want to blame something, blame it on little sister Yun for being too fragrant. Otherwise, why wouldn't these horses normally go crazy, but when younger sister Yun appears in the horse farm, all these fine horses go crazy. Ning's words were very reasonable. It seemed ridiculous, but thinking about it carefully, it was all very reasonable. She did not directly point at Yun and say that this was all a trap, but rather she pointed at the fragrance on her body. Even if Yun wanted to defend herself, she would not be able to do so. Chu Xiaoyang couldn't help being stunned. The more he thought about it, the more reasonable it seemed. He slowly nodded. Yun's face turned red and green as she bit her lips. She looked down, covering the hatred in her eyes towards Ning. She began to sob in grievance. Your Highness. Yun doesn't know anything. Elder sister. Yun really doesn't know anything. Ning curled her lips into a smile. Good little sister, what are you crying for? Elder sister didn't say you did it on purpose. Chu Xiaoyang gently put Yun down. His eyes turned cold as he said, Yun take off your clothes. For this kind of matter, how could he believe Ning's words? He had to see it with his own eyes. Yun's eyes filled with grievance as she said in a pitiful voice, Your Highness. You don't believe Yun either. When did this king say he didn't believe you? This king just wanted to see it with his own eyes. Chu Xiaoyang said with a frown. Yun was helpless as she slowly took off her clothes. She knew that although Chu Xiaoyang doted on her, he couldn't tolerate anyone going against his heart. He liked her gentle personality the most, so no matter how unwilling she was, she had to pretend to be gentle. Xiaoenzi, bring a horse from the palace. No, bring 5 horses. Chu Xiaoyang ordered. Xiaoenzi said. Xiaoenzi, the King Ding Yuan Palace did not only have a place to raise horses, there were also stables for the guards' horses. Not long after, Xiaoenzi came galloping over on a horse, followed closely by 5 guards on horseback. They did not wait for Xiao and Chu before Xiao, and Chu, Xiao and Chu. Xiao and Zining. He Chu and Zi Xiaoan, he Xiaoan, before. Get on the horses and run. He shouted at the guards. The guards did not understand, so they obediently jumped onto their horses. They did not know where His Highness wanted them to go, so they could only follow the track. Chapter 256. Chen Baiyun's eyes sparkled and her body slightly trembled, receiving an even more tender hug from Chu Xiaoyang. Don't be afraid, Yun. With this king here, no one will be able to harm you. He tightly hugged her. This scene fell into Chen Ning's eyes and she curled her lips. I'll hide a bit further away, otherwise I'll be caught in the crossfire. She said to herself as she mounted the date red horse, staying far away from Chu Xiaoyang and Chen Baiyun. Chen Baiyun secretly gritted her teeth. She could not understand why all the horses in the stable had gone crazy, but only Chen Ning's date red horse was fine. In this way, not only did all of her plans go up in smoke, even her trusted servant girl suffered a violent death. When she thought of Lan Xiang, tears couldn't help falling down. This time it wasn't fake at all. Suddenly, she felt the muscles on Chu Xiaoyang's arm tighten. She immediately looked up and nervously looked in the direction he was looking at. She saw the 5 horses on the track lose control as they madly ran in her direction. The 5 guards desperately tried to stop them, but the horses' mouths were covered in blood, but the 5 horses seemed like they had lost their minds. Their feet did not touch the ground as they ran towards Chu Xiaoyang. Chu Xiaoyang's eyes were filled with tears. Seeing the 5 horses coming closer, Chen Baiyun's face became even paler and her trembling became even more intense. A sharp glow appeared in Chu Xiaoyang's eyes. He suddenly raised his right hand and Chen Baiyun's outer clothes flew high into the trees. The 5 horses immediately changed directions and ran to the bottom of the tree. They raised their front hooves and wildly kicked at the tree, just like the previous scene. The faces of the guards on the horses turned pale. They fell off their horses and began to kowtow to Chu Xiaoyang's feet. This subordinate deserves to die, this subordinate is useless. This subordinate's horse suddenly lost control and ran into Your Highness. I ask Your Highness for forgiveness. A few of them banged their heads on the ground. Chu Xiaoyang's face was so dark that it seemed like water was about to roll down, but he remained silent without saying a word. Chen Baiyun's face turned pale and she almost couldn't stand. If it wasn't for Chu Xiaoyang tightly holding onto her, she would have already turned into a pile of mud. Your Highness, now that the truth has been revealed, the real culprit is the incense on little sister Yun's body. These horse grooms, horses, and that blue and white porcelain are all innocent. Only little sister's maid Lan Xiang was pitiful. She really died a pitiful death. Chen Ning slowly rode her horse forward and gave a faint sigh. Hearing this, Chen Baiyun almost fainted from vomiting. Your Highness, Yun really doesn't know anything, really doesn't know anything. Lan Xiang has served Yun for so many years, how could Yun kill her? Yun is innocent. She choked with sobs and couldn't continue speaking. Her tears fell like pearls from a broken necklace, and she fainted in grief. Yun Chu Xiaoyang wanted to ruthlessly teach Chen Baiyun a lesson, but he never thought that she would faint. He reached out his hand and she fell into his embrace. His eyes sparkled as he stared at Chen Baiyun. He saw that her white as paper face was covered in sparkling tears, looking delicate and powerless. Thinking of the child in her stomach, he was filled with anger and hate, love and pity. His mood was very complex. Are you all dead? Can't you see that the concubine consort has fainted? Why aren't you calling the doctor over? Chu Xiaoyang sent out a kick and kicked a guard in front of him. He had a stomach full of anger that he could not vent and he felt like he was about to explode. Chapter 257. Although he knew that it was Chen Baiyun's fault, Chu Xiaoyang was not willing to lower his head. He held Chen Baiyun and ran towards the intoxicated flower pavilion with large steps. He did not even look at Qin Ning and the horse grooms kneeling on the ground. He did not even leave a single word behind. Xiao and Zi and the guards were like they had been pardoned. They quickly ran off to find the doctor. The horse grooms were all kneeling on the ground, not daring to get up. They were all trembling and their faces were ashen, looking like they had lost their parents. Humph, daring to do it but not daring to admit it. Treating your words like farts, what kind of bullshit highness are you? Chen Ning looked at Chu Xiaoyang's back that did not even look back and curled her lips in disdain. She looked down at the horse grooms and calmly raised her eyebrows. What are you all kneeling for? Get up and take these horses to the stable and tie them up properly. If there is a next time, this princess will not be able to save you. This servant thanks the princess consort for saving our lives. The horse grooms did not stand up and they all kowtowed to Qin Ning. They all knew in their hearts that their lives were saved by the princess. If it wasn't for the princess finding out the truth, they would have all died a wrongful death today. While they were grateful to Qin Ning, everyone was filled with hatred towards Qin Baiyun. This evil woman, she actually used this kind of method to frame the princess. She almost harmed all of their lives as well. Her heart was truly evil. Forget it, forget it. This princess doesn't have any gratitude towards you. As long as you don't trick me in the future, this princess will be grateful. Chen Ning revealed a smile as she looked over at one of the horse grooms. Then she left on her date red horse with a smile on her face. That horse groom was the one that had received 100 silver coins from Qin Baiyun. He was so ashamed that he could not raise his head and his back was covered in a cold sweat. Qin Ning came out of the horse track. She did not directly return to the flowing cloud pavilion, rather she rode her date red horse out of the king's palace and wandered along the streets. You're letting Qin Baiyun off this easily. Why didn't you expose her true face? A voice suddenly came from behind her. She did not need to turn around to know that it was Mo Chuan. Her brows curved as she said with a smile, you saw everything. Mo Chuan appeared and took the reins from her hands, leading the horse for her. Qin Ning was stunned for a second before revealing a faint smile. She let him lead her forward, not asking where they were going. Even if I expose her true colors, what can I do? No matter what she does, in Chu Xiaoyang's heart, she will always be a pure white lotus. Even if she is wrong, he will forgive her. If she kills someone, he will say that that person deserves to die. Her voice was soft and gentle, and her tone was neither happy nor angry, as if she was telling a story about someone else. Mo Chuan was silent. It was like he understood the sadness and helplessness in her words, but looking at her expression, he couldn't find any sadness at all. What I said yesterday is forever valid, he suddenly said. Chen Ning immediately understood what he meant. He wanted to kill Qin Baiyun for her. She slowly shook her head. If it wasn't for the fact that she was pregnant with Chu Xiaoyang's child, she wouldn't have lived until now. Qin Baiyun deserved to die, but what about the child in her stomach? If it wasn't for the fact that she was pregnant, how could she let Qin Baiyun live to this day? Chapter 258. Although she escaped death today, I believe that she must have been scared out of her wits. She won't cause any trouble in this period of time. Xiao He, you really did a great job. Chen Ning narrowed her eyes at Mo Chuan and revealed a mischievous smile. She thought of the large group of horses charging out of the stable and charging at Qin Baiyun. She was so scared that she almost peed her pants. She felt it was very funny and very satisfying. She was just giving them a taste of their own medicine. This matter looked very scary, but it wasn't hard to do at all. She just had Mo Chuan steal Qin Baiyun's clothes and give them to the horses to smell. Then she cut the ropes tying the horses until there were only a few strands left. Like this, when Chen Baiyun appeared on the horse track again, her clothes with the suddenly smiling flower juice on it would become the target of the horses. The horses would go crazy and charge at her without a care for anything else. There was only a small accident. Chen Ning never thought that Lan Xiang would lose her life because she never thought that Chu Xiaoyang would just watch her die. But thinking about it carefully, this was in line with his cold personality. Other than Chen Baiyun, anyone else's life was like an ant in his eyes. Humph. Mo Chuan gave a snort and coldly looked away. Chen Ning rubbed her nose and felt very embarrassed. Xiao Hei, you can be assured, there won't be a next time. Next time, I won't let you steal women's clothes. She stuck out her tongue in embarrassment. Mo Chuan's face turned hot and he turned around to give her a warning look. This matter, only the heavens and earth, you and I know. You can't even tell my follower Xiao Si a single word. He said in a low voice. If this matter was passed to Xiao Si's ears, the consequences would be unimaginable. Xiao Hei, how about I treat you to a drink? The two of them were walking in a small alley. They saw a wine curtain hanging from the corner of the alley and the fragrance of wine filled the air. All right. Mo Chuan replied without any hesitation. Chen Ning dismounted and gently patted the date red horse's head. The horse obediently stood to the side and ate grass. The two of them pushed open the door and found that the store was not big. The tables and chairs were all clean, but there was not a single customer in the store. The boss was dozing off in the corner. Seeing that there were customers, he lazily got up to greet them. What would the two guests like to order? This store only sells wine and nothing else. Chen Ning couldn't help giggling as she said, Boss, your words are quite interesting. Then I'll buy 10 jeans of wine first. All right. The boss was a straightforward person. He placed the 2 jugs of wine on the table for the two of them and then placed 2 bowls of wine on the table. He reached out his hand to Mo Chuan, customers, this is a total of 2 silver coins. Pay first before you drink, there is no credit. Mo Chuan took out a 10 silver ingot and threw it at him. No need. Mo Chuan was surprised. The boss was overjoyed. He put the silver into his pocket and continued to lie behind the counter, dreaming of Zhou Gong. When the wine was poured out, it was a red and Chen Ning liked. Chen was of it. After the wine was poured out, it was actually a bright red. Chen Ning liked it with a single glance. It really is the fragrance of wine that is afraid of the deep alley. This store has this kind of good wine, but no one has come to taste it. We really are lucky, accidentally coming here and tasting this kind of good wine. She picked up the wine bowl and tasted it. It was rich and fragrant. Compared to this wine, the Tai He Floor's pear blossom white wine was much inferior. The fragrance of wine is afraid of the deep alley. Well said. Mo Chuan looked at her with a surprised expression. Then he picked up the wine bowl and drank it in one gulp, looking very heroic. It really is good wine. He poured another bowl for himself as his eyes sparkled. Chapter 259. Xiao Hei, are we friends now? Mo Chuan was a little stunned. He actually thought about it and then slowly nodded. He spat out a single word, yes. He had never had any friends, always coming and going alone, drinking by himself. If he didn't consider her a friend, he would never sit down and drink with her. Then, will you kill this friend of yours for a small matter? Chen Ning asked. I won't. Mo Chuan answered very directly this time, not even thinking about it. Then, if this friend of mine asks you for a small request, you won't reject it, right? Her eyes were filled with a smile. Of course I won't. He blurted it out. Thinking about it, he added, if it's a request like last night, then there's no way. He drank another bowl of wine. He felt like his brain must have gone crazy yesterday, actually agreeing to steal a woman's clothes. Being impulsive really was the devil. Thinking about it now, his face turned red. Definitely not, definitely not. I've said it before, there will never be a next time. If you want to steal a woman's clothes again, I'll personally take care of it. Chen Ning smiled as she waved her hand. You still dare bring it up? Mo Chuan glared at her. I don't dare, I don't dare. Chen Ning's eyes turned and she continued to stare at his face. She revealed a smile. Since we're friends now and you won't kill me, can you take off your mask and let me see your face? Her eyes were filled with curiosity. Chen Ning's eyes were filled with curiosity. Why? Mo Chuan did not move and his voice was calm as he drank another bowl of wine. Because we're friends. Since we're friends, we should be honest with each other, but I haven't even seen your true face, so how can we be considered friends? Don't you think so? Chen Ning giggled as she picked up the wine bowl and took a small sip. Although this wine was good to drink, with the experience from last time, she did not dare drink it all in one gulp like Mo Chuan. Even though she only drank 2 mouthfuls, her cheeks were already red and her eyes were filled with drunkenness. All right. Mo Chuan thought about it for a bit and suddenly said. Chen Ning was stunned. She shook her head and said, What did you say? She never thought that he would agree this easily. If you want to see it, I'll let you see it. But after you see it, you can't describe my appearance to anyone, can you do that? Mo Chuan's deep eyes fell onto her face, meeting her gaze. Is it because your face under the mask is very ugly? Chen Ning giggled as she stared at his black as ink eyes. She shook her head and said, No, no. Your eyes are so pretty, so you definitely can't be ugly. That's right. That's right. Mo Chuan's face slightly heated and he calmly said, Do you like this? I only say the truth. If you think I'm praising you, you. Mo, Ning. Using the empty bowl to touch the wine jug in front of Mo Chuan, she whispered with a smile, Excuse me, another bowl. Mo Chuan felt like he was floating, like he was drunk. He looked at her in a daze and unknowingly fell into a daze. Only when the wine bowl touched the jar with a zhing sound did he wake up from his dream. He came back to his senses and poured another full bowl for her. I hope you're not drunk, he whispered, so low that only he could hear him. What did you say? She did not hear it clearly. Chapter 260. The little wine shop was dim, but her eyes suddenly lit up. It was like the sun piercing through the clouds, dazzling her eyes. Chen Ning stared at his face and felt dizzy. She couldn't help rubbing her eyes. In front of her was a handsome face. His eyes were cold and aloof, with a distant and indifferent expression. Looking at him, it seemed like he was a bit familiar. Strange, this face of yours, where have I seen it before? Chen Ning rubbed her forehead and felt dizzy, like she was drunk. She could see Mo Chuan's vague face, like it was floating in the water. Oh, you've seen me before. Mo Chuan's brows slightly jumped up. His brows were very beautiful, thick and slender. She leaned closer and looked at him carefully, from his eyebrows and eyes, to his straight, jade-like nose, to his slightly pursed thin lips. She looked very carefully. Mo Chuan never showed his emotions, so he was a bit embarrassed being stared at by her. He just habitually pursed his lips and calmly continued to drink, revealing an indifferent expression. I've never seen you before. Chen Ning suddenly let out a long sigh. The two of them were very close and he could smell the faint fragrance of wine. There was also a faint sweet fragrance that made people feel intoxicated. But, you're really good looking. Just looking at you, it's very pleasing to the eye. She picked up the wine bowl and took a large gulp. Her eyes blurred as they filled with drunkenness. Mo Chuan's lips curled up and his eyes revealed a faint smile. Am I better looking or is Chu Xiaobai better looking? He suddenly asked. Of course it's because you're better looking. Chen Ning blurted out. She leaned over the table and giggled. Her voice was clear and sweet, just like a silver bell. Xiao Hei, you're this good looking, so don't wear that damn human skin mask in the future. I like it when you're like this. He didn't say anything and just looked at her with a faint smile, drinking bowl after bowl. Her words made him feel like he was drinking nectar, as if he was even more intoxicated than the wine in the bowl. Chen Ning also drank. The more she drank, the more she felt like this wine was like plain water, but the more she drank, the more thirsty she became. The more she drank, the more she wanted to drink. The more she drank, the brighter her eyes became and the clearer her laughter became. She wanted to laugh when she drank too much. Whatever Mo Chuan said, it would make her laugh until she couldn't stand up straight on the table. Mo Chuan never knew that his words could make a person this happy. He unknowingly said a lot and he couldn't even remember what he said. He could only remember her pair of eyes that were shimmering with drunkenness. Her sweet smile exuded a strange and dazzling beauty. Mo Chuan did not notice that she was drunk because he had already drank too much wine and he had unknowingly become drunk. Pang! Chen Ning suddenly slammed her fist down on the wooden table. She gritted her teeth and cursed, "What are you doing?" Chen Ning said. Chen and Chen. This voice was like an earth-shattering sound, instantly dispelling most of Mo Chuan's drunkenness. He opened his drunken eyes and looked at Chen Ning in a daze. Chen! How dare you insult His Majesty? The boss behind the counter was woken up by Chen Ning's scolding and he drowsily looked up. The boss behind the counter was woken up by Chen Ning's cursing and he drowsily looked up. Mo Chuan flicked his finger and a copper coin flew through the air, hitting the boss' sleeping acupuncture point. Mo Chuan looked down at Chen Ning and found that her face was blushing. Her eyes were slightly closed and her hands were on the table, but she was slipping under the table. Chapter 261. Mo Chuan's hand quickly reached out and she fell into his arms. Then she found a comfortable position in his arms and closed her eyes, peacefully falling asleep. He couldn't help not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Hey, wake up, wake up. He shook her and called out in her ear. Shoo, don't be noisy, let me sleep. Chen Ning knit her brows and impatiently waved her hand. It was like she was shooing away mosquitoes. Mo Chuan was helpless. He could only pick her up and walk out the door. Only then did he find that the sky was already filled with stars. They had actually stayed in this little wine shop for half a day. When the night wind blew, his slightly dizzy head instantly became clear. He touched his slightly hot face that was dyed red from the wine. When he touched his smooth skin, he suddenly realized that he wasn't wearing the human skin mask, so he took it out from his chest and put it on. Thinking about it, it really was ridiculous. After all these years, he had been very strict and had never acted as recklessly as he did today. He had actually taken off his mask in front of a girl he wasn't very familiar with just because of a single sentence from her, allowing her to see his face. Then, they went to an unknown tavern and drank to their heart's content. Unexpectedly, they drank to the point where they were slightly drunk. He seemed to have said a lot of things, but he couldn't remember them all. He only remembered that she kept smiling and smiling. Those eyes that were brighter than the stars in the sky were filled with a smile. The wine didn't intoxicate him, but he was intoxicated. Now, it was time for him to wake up. Mo Chuan helped Chen Ning onto the back of the date red horse, but she was too drunk. She couldn't even sit properly on the horse and fell down. She fell into his arms once again. Her cheeks were red and she looked very drunk. The faint starlight shined on her face and her bright red lips were slightly curled up. She looked very innocent as she slept, completely different from the clever girl she was when she was awake. Only because she was too smart and had a heavy guard against others, Mo Chuan felt that he could not see through her. But now it seemed like no matter how smart she was still a 16-17-year-old girl. Her skin was as clear as jade and was so tender that water could be pinched out. Mo Chuan suddenly did something that even he found unbelievable. He actually pinched her cheeks and that smooth and tender feeling gave him a strange feeling. It was as tender as tofu. He pulled his hand back like he was scalded by something and looked at his right hand with a look of disbelief. Damn! What was he doing? Mo Chuan calmed himself and took a deep breath. He jumped onto the date red horse's back while hugging her. The horse only recognized Chen Ning as its master and didn't allow anyone else to ride it. When it saw Mo Chuan holding its master, it snorted in protest. Mo Chuan's legs squeezed the horse's belly and it obediently moved forward. The horse was swaying back and forth. With the cool night wind blowing, Chen Ning opened her eyes in a daze. You're awake. Mo Chuan's deep voice sounded from above her head. Well, where are we? She found that she was in Mo Chuan's arms and there were little stars dancing in the blue night sky in front of her. Mo Chuan's face was like a reflection in the water, swaying back and forth, making it hard for her to see clearly. I'll send you home. He replied. Chapter 262. You're drunk. Mo Chuan gave a helpless sigh. If you want to vomit, then vomit. I'm not drunk. Chen Ning forcefully swallowed the tipsy feeling back down. She opened her eyes wide and suddenly sobered up. She sat up in Mo Chuan's embrace and looked forward. She clearly said, You're going the wrong way. This is not the road to the King Ding Yuan Palace. Oh. You're really awake. You recognize the road. Mo Chuan did not recognize the direction and just let the date red horse wander. There were many roads in the capital city and it was night time, so he did not know where the date red horse was pulling the two of them. Of course I recognize you. Let me tell you a big secret. As long as it's a road that I've walked on once, I'll never forget it again. If I've seen someone once, I'll always remember their appearance. So, after I've seen your face, you can't run away. Chen Ning giggled. She had not completely sobered up and the alcohol was still strong. Her tongue began to grow louder as she spoke. She swayed left and right on the horse's back, almost falling off several times. Mo Chuan could only hold her tightly. Her waist was very thin, like it would break with a gentle pinch. He could hold her with a single hand. The girl's sweet scent came over and his body was suddenly filled with flames. Don't move. He knit his brows and held her shoulder with one hand. He gritted his teeth and kept his distance from her. I'm not moving, I just can't sit still. Oh. The date red horse suddenly shook a little and Chen Ning's body swayed, falling forward. Mo Chuan grabbed her waist and pulled her back. Because he used too much strength, their bodies were tightly pressed together. The flames in his body that had just been extinguished began to burn again. Damn! He gritted his teeth and cursed in a low voice, not knowing if he was cursing himself or cursing her. He tried his best to restrain himself as he looked forward. His voice was as cold as ice. Where do we go now? The date red horse was at a three-way road. Chen Ning slightly looked up and said without any hesitation, right. Mo Chuan almost suspected that she was pretending to be drunk. He raised the reins and turned to the right road. In the silent night, the horse's hooves stepped on the blue stone road, making a monotonous and clear sound. Under Chen Ning's guidance, after turning another corner, he saw the back door of the King Ding Yuan palace. She was not drunk. Mo Chuan's heart filled with anger. He did not believe that a drunk person would be able to recognize the road with their eyes closed. This was simply impossible. He reached out to grab her shoulder and turned her to face him. He gritted his teeth and said, "Why did you lie to me?" "Lie to you? When did I lie to you?" Chen Ning's head became more and more heavy as her eyelids drooped down. She was drunk and she couldn't even think clearly anymore. "You obviously know who I am, but you always pretend not to know. You're obviously not drunk, but you're pretending to be drunk. How much longer do you want to deceive me?" Mo Chuan's voice was very cold, each word was like ice falling to the ground. His eyes were even colder, filled with a bone-chilling intent. Anyone who was stared at by him like that would tremble all over. But Chen Ning was drunk, she was not afraid of him at all. Instead she giggled and reached out to grab the mask on his face. Chapter 263. Mo Chuan grabbed her hand and tightly knit his brows. Looking at her appearance, it seemed like she was really drunk. "Big bad wolf. Little white rabbit. I don't think you're a little white rabbit, but rather an incomparably sly little fox." He gently curled his lips and his lips revealed a trace of gentleness that even he did not notice. It was completely different from his usual coldness. "Damn old emperor, I'll beat you to death." Chen Ning suddenly opened her drunken eyes and threw a punch at Mo Chuan's face. With Mo Chuan's skills, how could he let her hit him? But he did not know why, but he was stunned. He did not dodge and the punch landed right on his nose. It was a good thing Chen Ning was drunk and her hands were weak. His nose only felt a bit sore, but it didn't hurt much. "You really are bold." He suddenly grabbed her hands, not allowing her to move. His body released killing intent once again. "Xiao Hei, why is it you?" Chen Ning shook her head and the blurry figure in front of her became clear. She said with a smile, "I thought it was that bad emperor. If I saw him, I would have killed him with a single punch." Mo Chuan's face couldn't help turning dark. He said in a low voice, "The emperor, how did he offend you?" "It's him who offended me, he's greatly offended me. He is a muddled emperor. He has nothing better to do than meddle in other people's business, messing around. Tell me, is he an old muddled person?" "Old and muddled." "Old muddled. Aye. The emperor, is he very old?" Mo Chuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Chen Ning's brain turned into paste as she muttered, "The emperors in the movies are all white-bearded old men, with toothless old eunuchs by his side. Woo, perhaps this emperor is not too old, but he is definitely a muddled person. Otherwise, why would he marry me to that bastard Chu Xiaoyang? White-bearded old man." Mo Chuan couldn't help rubbing his smooth chin. Thinking of Xiao Si, he almost laughed, toothless old eunuchs. He supported Chen Ning's swaying body and said while shaking his head, "You really are drunk. Marrying you to King Ding Yuan was not the emperor's idea, but rather your own idea. It was your father, Great General Qin, who personally went to the palace to ask for an imperial edict, saying that you would not marry anyone other than King Ding Yuan. The emperor sympathized with Great General Qin for fighting for the country for many years, so he allowed it. Now that King Ding Yuan has taken your sister as his concubine, you don't blame Chu Xiaoyang, but rather the emperor. He's not a good person at all. He's not a good person either. He's also surnamed Chu. Those surnamed Chu are all snakes and rats, not a single one of them is good." Chen Ning spoke in a slurred voice. Mo Chuan's face sunk. "Do you know that insulting the royal family is a capital offense?" Chen Ning's head tilted and she fell into his embrace. She mumbled a few words before falling asleep without knowing what happened. Mo Chuan. He was trying to reason with a drunken woman. Forget it, I'll send you back first. He sighed and jumped off the horse with her in his arms. His figure flickered and he arrived on the roof. He knew that he couldn't let anyone see her like this, otherwise her reputation would be ruined. It just so happened that she was wearing a light green robe. In the night, it looked like a blooming green epiphyllum, especially eye-catching. Mo Chuan took off his outer robe and covered her body with it. Borrowing the cover of the night, he silently entered the king's palace. He avoided the guards of the king's palace and carried Qin Ning to the flowing cloud pavilion. Opening her door, he entered in a flash. The room was completely silent. There was no candlelight and no sound at all. However, he suddenly felt a murderous aura coming from behind him. Chapter 264. Mo Chuan did not have time to think. His feet touched the ground and he flew forward like an eagle. This move was very fast. Although he was holding a person in his arms, he was still as fast as lightning. He turned in the air and when he landed, he was already facing the assassin. That person was wearing a snow-white robe and had a picturesque appearance, but he was filled with anger. He pointed at Mo Chuan and scolded, "Black ghost, so it's you. Where did you take her?" Mo Chuan's eyes turned cold and he gave a snort, "Pervert, why are you here again? Don't you remember what I said? I said that as long as you appear here again, I'll hit you every time I see you." Chu Xiaobai's brows rose. When he was about to explode, his eyes suddenly fell onto Qin Ning and his expression instantly changed. "You. What did you do to her?" She. His voice trembled and he almost couldn't say it. He saw that Qin Ning was covered in a black man's robe. Her face was red and her eyes were closed. There was a faint fragrance of wine coming from her. It was clear that she was drunk. A large fear filled his heart as he stared at Mo Chuan with eyes that seemed like they were about to burst into flames. "Black ghost, you. You're not a human. You're taking advantage of me." He was like an angry lion as he charged at Mo Chuan, wishing he could kill the man that had taken advantage of her in front of him. His handsome and refined face contorted in anger, and the bones in his arms crackled. It was obvious that he had used all of his strength. His palm was filled with anger and Mo Chuan knew how strong it was. If he wasn't holding a person, it would have been easy to deal with this palm. But he was holding Qin Ning. In a split second, he suddenly jumped off the ground and flew into the sky like a white crane. His posture was incomparably beautiful. Although he was holding a person, he was still very nimble. He jumped over Chu Xiaobai's head and landed behind him. Chu Xiaobai's eyes lit up. "Who are you? Why do you know my Chu family's qigong? Where did you secretly learn this move, Cold Pond Crane Shadow, from?" Chu Xiaobai's face turned cold as he suddenly turned around. His eyes stared right at Mo Chuan, but he did not continue to attack. Because he was afraid of accidentally injuring her. Secretly learn. Why would I secretly learn it? This isn't considered a great secret art, so why do you think only your Chu family knows it? There was no expression on Mo Chuan's face, but his voice was filled with indifference. Chu Xiaobai was so angry that his hands began to tremble. He gritted his teeth and said, "All right, put her down and we'll go out to fight." His heart was already filled with killing intent. This black-clothed man dared to do this to her, so he would not forgive him. This black-clothed man dared to do this kind of thing to her. "Are you a servant of King Jing'an's palace?" Mo Chuan didn't say anything, but once he did, Chu Xiaobai couldn't say anything. Mo Chuan coldly looked at Chu Xiaobai. "King Jing'an, you don't need to be this excited or be this angry. She was drunk and fell asleep, I just sent her back. Only you, King Jing'an, would take advantage of someone when they are down. I disdain doing such a thing. Chu Xiaobai took a few deep breaths to calm himself down. He looked at Imo Chuan with doubt, half believing his words. Who are you? Why are you always by her side and you still say you have no evil intentions? He gave a cold laugh. You don't care who I am and I don't need to explain it to you. I just want to remind you, don't forget your own identity. This is not a place for your highness, King Jing'an. If you don't leave, then don't blame me for being impolite. Chapter 265. How could Chu Xiaobai be willing to leave, especially after seeing Qin Ning unconscious from being drunk? How could he be assured leaving her in the hands of this strange black-clothed man? All right, I want to see how you'll be impolite to me. Pay. When have you ever been polite to this king? Chu Xiaobai reacted and spat at Imo Chuan. He couldn't help rubbing his cheek. It was still aching from Imo Chuan's slap last time. He had never been hit since he was young. Other than this reckless black-clothed brat in front of him, there was no one that dared to hit him. So you're saying, you want to be beaten again? Imo Chuan gave a cold laugh and his voice was filled with anger. His chin was still a bit swollen. This stinky brat, he was actually this heavy-handed. Let's fight. Put her down, I'll fight with you outside. Don't wake her up here. Chu Xiaobai lowered his brows and said in a deep voice. When he saw Imo Chuan hugging her, his heart filled with anger. Especially her red drunk cheeks, it was like a beautiful blooming begonia, but this flower was being hugged by this man. Even if I hugged her and fought with you, you still wouldn't be my match. Imo Chuan looked at Qin Ning who was sleeping like a kitten in his arms and suddenly didn't want to let go. Chu Xiaobai's face turned green. He took a step forward and grabbed her arm, pulling her into his embrace. At the same time, he stared at Imo Chuan and said word for word, let go of her for me. Imo Chuan raised his chin and hugged her even tighter. He coldly said, I won't let go. Let go. Won't let go. Let go. Won't let go. The two of them stared at each other with wide eyes, looking at each other. The smell of gunpowder filled the air. Kacha. A clear sound rang out, followed by Qin Ning's painful cry, "Ayo, it hurts. My arm." She felt a sharp pain in her right arm that made her tear up. All of her drunken drowsiness flew away. When she opened her eyes, she immediately saw two people in front of her. One was black and the other was white. She found that she was in Imo Chuan's embrace and her right arm was in Chu Xiaobai's hand. The two of them were pulling at her like a tug of war and her arm was actually dislocated. Imo Chuan and Chu Xiaobai were both stunned. The two of them were like two fighting roosters, pulling each other. They had unknowingly used too much strength, but they had forgotten that the one being used was not the other, but rather Qin Ning's unlucky arm. The two of them were both ashamed and ashamed. They lowered their heads like students who had made a mistake, not daring to look at her. Hey! 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 Do you two think, what is going on? Both of you, let go. Qin Ning grimaced in pain. Especially when she saw their guilty expressions, she was filled with anger and almost cursed them out loud. Qin Ning gritted her teeth in pain. She shouted in an imposing manner. Imo Chuan and Chu Xiaobai's hearts skipped a beat and they let go at the same time. Ning! Ah! Qin Ning's but fell to the ground. She was so angry that she almost roared out. Do the two of you have a grudge against me or something? Yun Chen of the Bai Chen of Chen the Shaolin Yun Ning, one of you hurt my butt, and the other broke my arm. How can you bully me like this? She held her dislocated right arm, and the pain made her suck in air through her teeth. Sorry. Mo Chuan and Chu Xiaobai said at the same time. I didn't do it on purpose. The two of them said at the same time. I didn't do it on purpose. The two of them said at the same time. Chen Ning couldn't help rolling her eyes. Chapter 266. She felt that she was really unlucky. She didn't offend anyone, she just fell asleep from being drunk. When she woke up, she found that her arm had been dislocated by someone. These two damn fellows. She stared at the two of them and her eyebrows turned green. Ning, it's all my fault, it's all my fault. I'll help you reconnect your bones and you won't feel any pain soon. Chu Xiaobai took a step forward and kneeled down in front of her, gently holding her right arm. You know how to reconnect bones. Let her go and let me do it. Mo Chuan also took a step forward and his hand grabbed Chu Xiaobai's wrist. Moreover, the way he grabbed it was not gentle at all. Chu Xiaobai's brows jumped up and he couldn't help taking a deep breath. He quickly turned around and glared at Mo Chuan. His eyes were filled with flames as he angrily said, Scram, you don't have the qualifications to touch her. I don't have the qualifications. The one who doesn't have the qualifications is you. Your Highness King Jing'an, don't forget who she is to you. Mo Chuan gave a cold laugh. Chu Xiaobai angrily said, I don't need you to remind me. Shut up. What qualifications do you have to order me? Who do you think you are? Mo Chuan increased the strength in his hand. Chu Xiaobai grimaced in pain and scolded, Stop pretending in front of me, where did this bastard come from? This is a matter between me and Ning, it has nothing to do with you. Your matter is my matter, I want to care about it. Chu Xiaobai gave an angry laugh, All right, if you want to care about my matter, then you have to ask if my fist agrees. Mo Chuan looked at him, Your Highness King Jing'an, do you want to teach me a few moves? That's right. I just want to smash your face. Chu Xiaobai angrily shouted. Hey, try it if you have the skills. Mo Chuan raised his brows in an uncaring manner. With a needle against an awn, the smell of gunpowder filled the air between the two of them. Chen Ning looked at one and the other. Seeing one with a fierce expression and the other with a smile, she couldn't help giving a zeet sound. I say, Little White and Little Black, it's a good thing that the two of you want to compete in martial arts and promote the path of martial arts. But before you verify your martial arts, can you first reattach my arm? Allow me. Allow me. Chu Xiaobai and Maobai spoke at the same time. As soon as their voices fell, their gazes met in the air. Sparks flew from their eyes as they drew their swords. Bang! Chen Ning did not even have time to speak before she heard a muffled sound. It was unknown who hit who first. What followed was the sound of punches and kicks hitting each other. The two figures quickly began to fight. Their clothes fluttered in the wind as they moved around the room, making Chen Ning's eyes blur. Bam bam bam. Paw paw paw. The two of them took a few punches and kicks from each other. Glaring at each other, they quickly started fighting again. This scene was so familiar, it was exactly the same as that night. Chen Ning was stunned seeing this. She could not understand why the two of them had turned into children, fighting over a single disagreement. The furniture in her room was once again destroyed. It hadn't even been a day since she changed it, but it had all been turned into pieces. But Chen Ning did not care. Since these expensive furniture and decorations were all bought with that bastard Chu Xiaoyang's money, even if they were all destroyed, she would not feel any pain. Chapter 267. Other than her arm, her head was also beginning to hurt. If these two people fought in her room every night, she would not be able to sleep well in the future. Suddenly, another ping sound rang out, scaring Qin Ning. She thought that one of the two people had been injured again. Xiao Ru's disheveled head popped in from the door. She sleepily asked, "Young miss, is there thunder in your room again?" She looked at the two figures in front of her and thought that she was dreaming. She stood there rubbing her eyes as her mouth formed a circle. Oh, God! What is going on? What is going on? Mo Chuan and Chu Xiaobai were fighting intensely, neither of them paying attention to her. Xiao Ru rubbed her eyes for a while before finally seeing the two people in the room. "Young miss, quickly come and see. An immortal and a mortal are fighting," she excitedly shouted. Chen Ning's lips curled up. She really wanted to slap the back of Xiao Ru's head. "Xiao Ru, quickly come and help me up." She endured the pain as she shouted. She was too lazy to care about these two fellows fighting. If they wanted to fight, then they could fight. Even if they destroyed the entire room, it would still be Chu Xiaoyang's money. Xiao Ru finally noticed Chen Ning sitting on the floor. She quickly ran over and grabbed Chen Ning's arm. "Young miss, what's wrong?" "Pain, pain, pain. Don't move no matter what. My arm is broken." Chen Ning broke out in a cold sweat from the pain. "Ah." Xiao Ru was shocked and tears began to pour out. She sobbed and said, "Young miss, did that bastard Highness hit you? He actually broke your arm. He's really bad, he has a sore on his head and a bad heart." The two people who were fighting all stopped at the same time. They both remembered that Chen Ning was still injured. "Ning, I'll help you fix your bones." "Let me." Two people appeared beside Chen Ning at the same time, one on the left and one on the right, holding her arms. "Let go of her. Let go of her." The two of them shouted at the same time as they stared at each other. Seeing that another fight was about to begin, Chen Ning suddenly had an idea. She loudly shouted, "Io, it hurts so much." Sure enough, it attracted the attention of the two of them. Mo Chuan did not say a word as he grabbed her right arm and pushed it. Hearing that "ka" sound, Chen Ning didn't even have time to cry out in pain before her dislocated arm was successfully fixed. "You!" Chu Xiaobai fiercely glared at Mo Chuan. Although he hated him for being a step ahead, he also admired the other side's clean methods. Chen Ning rubbed her arm and looked at Mo Chuan and then at Chu Xiaobai. "Since you two like to fight so much, then go ahead and fight to your heart's content. Now, both of you, get out." She scolded with a stern face. Both of them were filled with remorse and guilt towards her. They wanted to apologize, but because of the other party's presence, they couldn't open their mouths. Xiao Ru blinked her eyes as she stared at Chu Xiaobai. She suddenly clapped her hands and said, "I recognize you, you're the immortal young master that descended to the mortal world that night." Chu Xiaobai did not even have time to speak before Chen Ning angrily shouted, "Xiao Ru, shut up. You're not allowed to talk to these two crazy people in the future. You are not allowed to talk to these two lunatics anymore." Chu Xiaobai and Mo Chuan looked at each other. Although they didn't know what these words meant, they knew that it wouldn't be anything good. Crazy people. Chu Xiaobai and Mo Chuan looked at each other. Although they didn't know what these words meant, they knew that it wouldn't be anything good. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.